Well, hello and welcome back to Film Noir Podcast. We are a podcast that reviews and analyzes films that are written by, directed by, or starring women, and discuss their representation pertaining to the industry and what we see on screen. I'm Serena,
And I'm Whitney.
and today we will be talking about the movie 10 Things I Hate About You. We're gonna kind of go through just like the plot of everything that happens in the movie and talk about a lot of the prominent themes and just what makes the movie good, things that we liked about it, what works for it, things that don't. And then afterwards, of course, we're going to play FMF, our favorite game, where we take the prominent men of the film and we rate them. After that, we'll rate the actual movie, 10 being a perfect film, a 5 would kind of be like, yeah, I enjoyed it. Probably wouldn't watch it again though. And a 1 is just should have left it on the cutting room floor. Don't even know why you continue trying to make this. After that, of course, we'll shout out our Patreon VIPs, and we'll give you recommendations of movies that we think are similar if you liked this one. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right in. Whitney, do you
Mhm.
want to give us a synopsis?
Yeah, so first, this movie was directed by Gil Junger. You can watch it on Disney Plus. It stars Heath Ledger, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Stiles, Larissa Oleynik, and Andrew Keegan. And it's a movie about a pretty popular teenager who can't go out on a date until her ill-tempered older sister does, based off of William Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew. Um, I'm gonna start off with first thoughts. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, this is my all-time number one favorite movie. Like this has been my number one favorite movie for the past like 15 years. Like ever since I saw it, this has been my movie.
It's so
Um,
memorable.
it's memorable, it's quotable, it's relatable. There's so many good things about it, especially considering like it's almost surprising how many good things there are about it once you find out how problematic the source material was.
Oh my God. And even for like the time that it was written, like
Mm.
and made as a movie, like watching the movie from like what, early 90s? Late
I want to
90s.
say it's 1990. Let me double check
Yeah,
that though.
because it's like 2000 is their prom, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right, with the posters.
Yeah, so it's like a graduating class of 2000 and like we're watching it 23 years later and we're like, yeah, no, I
Mm-hmm.
love this movie. And like a lot of it kind of still holds up and isn't like, you know,
Yeah.
gut-wrenching and embarrassing when you think about it, you know?
No. Well, and what's even more amazing about it, considering it's been 23 years later, and so many people still love this movie and quote it all the time, is that the screenwriters, Karen McCullough and Kirsten Smith, it was their first screenplay. After this movie, they went on to write Legally Blonde, House Bunny, She's the Man. So just like awesome favorite all-time great movies.
What a lineup. Dang. So good.
hmm
Yeah, no, I freaking love this movie. I quote it all the time.
hmm
Too many times, probably. People are like, what are you even referring to? And I'm like, it's 10 things I hate about you.
So I quote this movie constantly, and then the other one I quote almost as much is Mean Girls with Lindsay Lohan. But it's more mostly just one specific quote from Mean Girls, and that's on Wednesdays we wear pink.
Oh, okay. Every time I think of Mean Girls, the one scene that like lives in my head is the one where Tina Fey is like welcoming the new student from Africa and she like looks at the black girl and the black girl goes, I'm not new. And then Lindsay Lohan walks in. I just think about the scene all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
She wrote Tina Fey, didn't she help write that movie?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure her and Amy Poehler were like the
Yeah.
writers of that one. I'm fairly
hmm
certain.
Maybe we should do an episode about that.
We should.
Hmm.
We definitely should.
I'm down.
Me too. All right. So, yeah, we're gonna start off with the beginning of the movie. So, first thing that happens, um, honestly, okay, the opening scene of this movie is kind of brilliant because it really just it shows you exactly like who everybody is. And like you
Hmm.
go through and you kind of meet all the characters, but like you get exactly what like the big themes of the movie are. You're introduced to basically like all of their perceived stereotypes that they are in and see other people in,
Hmm.
and just like the dynamic of everyone, like the social dynamic of the school. So immediately we come into the film and we see a group of girls in a car and they're just, bopping to some like pop song on
Teen
the
pop,
radio.
yeah.
And then our main character pulls up in a car right next to him with like all of her windows down and the song Bad Reputation is playing. And it's like so loud, like it drowns out the other girls' music. And they basically like look at her and then she looks at them and they like like avert their eyes out of like fear or something. And then the light turns and she like speeds off. Which
Iconic.
is yeah, it's such a great, like, opener because we don't even know the name of the main character at this point, we just know, like, yeah, she's the main character for
Hmm.
sure, and we
Oh,
know
yeah.
everything we need to know. We know that she is feared. She doesn't give a damn about her bad reputation.
She's proud of it.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
Hmm.
Um And then, of course, we get to the school, we see the same character, Kat, walk up to a prom poster and, like, tear it down, and then the girl that's putting up the posters is like, "Oh my god, hey, why'd you do that?" Which honestly is just funny.
It's very Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Cabbage
Cabbage
Man.
Man. Yeah.
It really is, because they do that so many times. And so,
Hmm.
like, that's literally just the opening, and then it immediately cuts to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character sitting in like, the counseling office or something. I think it says guidance counselor on the door. And she's like, "Oh, I'll be right with you." And the guidance counselor is just, like, at her computer, typing away what we assume is doing normal guidance counselor things, and then it cuts to her screen, and she's, like, straight up writing smut, like, on the job with minors just around her, just constantly, um, which is hilarious, but also one of those things that's just like, obviously, we know that this is unacceptable.
Hmm.
Like, everyone knows it's unacceptable, it's kind of, like, why it's funny and in the play, but, like, even at the time, it probably wasn't acceptable. Just kinda to show, like, this is how ridiculous, like, this is, and probably also a nod to just, like, Shakespeare and his, like, absurdism humor.
I didn't think about that, but that's a good point. Yeah.
Well, I
I figured it was just setting the tone.
yeah, it definitely sets the tone, and it's hilarious.
Hmm.
So yeah, we find out that Cameron, through their conversation, is an army brat, and essentially she kind of just writes him off and like lets him go. She's like, "Yeah, this school isn't going to be any different than your other schools. You've seen it; it's all the same thing you've seen before." And then she says the best. This is actually one of the things I quote from this the most, where she goes like,
Hmm.
"They're the same little ass wipe shit for brains everywhere," and she like flips off like a student that just like threw like their lunch at her window. And she just says it all with a smile, and it's just hilarious. And also, her name is Miss Perky, which is just funny.
Hmm. It's well, I like it because she herself is a very perky person, despite the fact that she's like she just hates everything about the school.
Yeah, like the way she
Very
delivers
fake
all
it
of
till
her
you make it.
lines.
Yeah.
And also, she rates smut, and that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
It's not
Nice little
Shakespeare if there
pun.
are no puns involved.
Mhm.
So yeah, Cameron's like, "Am I in the right office?" And she's like, Well, you shouldn't be here any longer. I've got Deviants to see and a novel to finish, so Scoot, which is the entrance of Heath Ledger as Patrick Verona, who is in the counselor's office because he because he allegedly exposed himself to the lunch lady.
But it turns out to be a prank, and it was just what do you call it, a bratwurst
Yeah,
in
it was
his
a
pants.
prank. It was a bratwurst, and she looks him up and down and goes, "Aren't we the optimist?" Which again, fucked up thing to say. But like, Jesus. Yeah. Anyway, and his reaction is exactly what it should be. He's like, "That is disgusting. What did you just say to me?" But that really does kind of give you like the just lack of regard for the students at the school by the
Hmm.
faculty, except for the teacher, which I think is kind of an important character because he's probably the only like adult figure in the movie other than the dad that like kind of takes like what he does seriously and like actually kind of cares about like the students and stuff. He like says he doesn't, but like he does. Or at
Does
least about their
he?
like learning.
Okay, he cares about their learning. I'll give you that. But I
Yeah.
don't does he care about the students? I think he hates them almost just as much as Mrs. Perky.
I think it's kind of like one of those hates where he's like I think in my opinion, he is the kind of teacher where he like acts like all nonchalant and everything, but like he does love teaching and he does care about his students, but he's also like the favorite, you know, and
You
like
had me
knows
up
it.
until the favorite. Okay. Um,
Like there's always that teacher that like everybody loves, but then like the people that they pick on like hate him, but purely because he's rightfully picking on them.
yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I agree.
But I think it's important, and I'll get to that later during a scene. Um, but yeah, he's hilarious. So after the guidance counselor and just the tone being set there, we are given a scene with Michael, who is another kind of reoccurring side character. He introduces himself to Cameron. Hey, I'm Michael. I'm here to show you around. And Cameron immediately is like, "Oh, great! Like super awesome. I am normally sent those like AV geeks, and it's so nice not to have one of those." To which Michael, um, doesn't actually get to reply. Someone behind him goes, "Hey, Michael, where should we put the slides with this giant like AV cart
AV
behind
cart,
him?"
yeah.
And he goes, "Michael?" Um, which like, who's Michael? Which really tells you everything you need to know about his character. He works a lot to
Worries.
maintain an
Oh.
image that isn't super nerd. Like, even though he is one,
Hmm.
he doesn't want to come across that way, which works because Cameron was like, "Oh yeah, you're not one of those guys," and then was like, "Oh, just kidding, you are."
Well, and
Um,
this was back before
yeah.
like nerds were cool type of thing, where nerds were very much like, I don't want to be a nerd. Like nerd's an insult.
Yeah. And honestly, just the interaction of like what Cameron sees in Michael as being like whatever he sees him as, and then Michael actually being very different from that perception is just a
Hmm.
reoccurring theme of like these are the facades and the faces that we show to other people versus who we actually are when it comes down to it is this whole theme throughout the movie. And so yeah, so we see that. He kind of gives him like the rundown of the school. He like shows him like all the little cliques and everything. Um, and then walks by Bianca Stratford and time slows down.
It's love at first sight for him.
Literally. Cameron is in love with this girl. Who is that? Like, she's amazing. I need to know who she is. Cameron's like, okay, she's just like the popular pretty girl. Like, calm down. And he's like, no, she's literally amazing and I'm in love with her. And he's like, okay, she's kind of shallow and, maybe get to know her first or something, I don't know. And he's like, "How can you say that about her? She's not shallow." And then they give us a nice little scene between, Bianca and her BFF, Chastity.
Chastity. Which I also love that they call her Chastity, considering like this whole movie is about sex.
Oh, yeah, Chastity.
hmm
Yeah, it's hilarious, especially since she's very much not
Chase.
chaste. Um, so yeah, they're having a conversation and they're discussing the difference between like and love. A very philosophical idea. Um,
And it introduces the fact that like as like well because she gives us this great quote the I like my Skechers but I love my Prada backpack but I love my Skechers.
well, that's because you
Yeah.
don't have a Prada backpack. Oh.
Yeah, and well, and we see like even though that these girls, and all of these characters are like high
Mhm.
schoolers, they do have like this deeper inner thought process
Mhm.
that they're taking these high concept ideas and translating them into ideas that are more accessible to them and more relevant to them.
Yeah.
And that yes, they are shallow, but they're shallow in a way that interests them and like gives them access or and like that like they're not just shallow. They do have a lot of depth to them. They are very smart characters.
Yeah, like, depth
And
isn't the one thing we assume it to be.
and it's more of the facade of like I'm presenting this shallow face, but like deep down I'm not that shallow.
Yeah, because like, the difference between like and love, that's honestly a great analogy for it.
Mhm.
Because, like, some people couldn't even put that into words. They don't even know what love is or what liking something is. And so to be
Mhm.
able to actually take that concept and to condense it down into something that you can tangibly, like, access and understand, like, in your own world is very like, that's a skill. That's what we pay
Mhm.
writers to do.
Yeah,
Like, that's what we
exactly.
pay people and, like, comedians. That's what philosophers are for. Like, that's literally, like, not an easy thing to do. That's why songwriting is so, like, important and lyricists and, like,
Mhm.
all of that stuff. So it's like it may seem like a dumb thing in the way it's presented, which it's presented that way on purpose to kinda get you as the audience to be like, "Oh, LOL, so funny throwaway line." But then when you actually think about the line, you're like, "Wait, that's actually a fairly good analogy," especially coming from, like, 2 teenage girls that are sophomores, I
Mhm.
think, in this
Mhm.
movie, to be able to, like, conceptualize it that way.
Yeah,
Um,
and we get so many more great lines from her later too,
you
Bianca.
really do. She's so
Yeah,
funny.
she is. And she
Um,
knows it.
yeah, like, she knows that she's smart. She doesn't mind having these conversations and doesn't really care that other people are like, "Oh, that's what" she's just thinking things. Um, so yeah, so we get that, to which Cameron honestly is like, "What like, I don't know what you're talking about because I think that that was brilliant, so I wanna get to know her."
Cameron
Um,
gets it.
Cameron gets it. To which Michael reveals that, she's looking for a French tutor, and Cameron's like, "Perfect," and he's like, "You know French, that's cool," and he's like, no, I don't actually know French, but I will." Which just is a funny line, but also, like, yeah, he's really gonna teach himself French so that he can have a chance to talk to this girl because she can't date. Big problem.
So Bianca, yeah. So does at this point is this when Cameron says that she's not allowed to date?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
He goes
I
like,
my
"Don't
mhm.
think about it. It is a widely known fact that the Stratford sisters don't date. We don't know who Bianca's sister is. We just know that Bianca is the one that has caught Cameron's interest. We don't actually meet Kat and know her like actual name as Kat until the next scene, I think."
Okay. I've watched this movie so many times that that sometimes the timeline just blurs together for me.
No, honestly, yeah.
Um, but
Apologies if we skip around on accident. We tried to take notes and make them in order, but,
we just get so excited.
really.
Um, my one of my favorite parts about the whole like, do you know French? No, but I can learn. Is like he's like, oh, I gotta better myself. I gotta get myself on her level before I even approach her.
Dude, yeah, and people are like, "Oh, she's so dumb." And he's like, "I have to, like, study to be able to talk to her." Which is so cute.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only response any man should ever have.
Exactly.
I need to get on her level. Yeah, and so we find out she can't date. The only way that he can get to even talk to her is through this French class. And then we skip over to Kat, who is in her classroom. And she very much is posed as like one of those like quote unquote angry feminists in this movie. Because I believe the teacher asked them how they felt about their writing assignment, which is The Sun Also Rises, which is written by Hemingway. And she's like, well, no, someone else in the show, Lord Almighty, someone else in the classroom, someone else in the classroom is like, oh, it's such a romantic like story, and she's like, okay, literally, what are you talking about? Did you read it? Because essentially, this is just Hemingway, hanging around with Picasso trying to nail his leftovers. And they're like, okay, like, do you really have to have an opinion about everything and, like, say it out loud? Because God forbid someone do that, especially a
Mm-hmm.
woman. Um, yeah, and it's just kind of like a back and forth in the classroom where they're like, oh, she's like on her period. Can we get her to take her Midol before she comes to class? And they're like, dude, you're such a dick.
So that's when we're
Another main
introduced to
character.
Joey, I believe.
Yes.
Um, and so Joey is just like he's your stereotypical popular pretty boy that everyone wants to date.
He's very pretty.
Um, he is, and the
So
worst
pretty.
insult people can give him throughout the movie is just like, "Ah, fine, pretty boy."
Which is kind of funny, like, because, like, he's played by a person of color, but, like, every time they, like, come up with, like, a nickname for him, like, yeah, it's probably problematic that he probably isn't, like, actually the same, like, ethnicity as the actors they're calling him, but they only compare him to, like, hot men that are, like, well established in their craft,
Mhm.
which is funny.
But yeah, but right away, like, I mean, we find out that he's a jerk,
Yeah, he's a dick.
despite his pretty exterior.
Even the teacher's like, "Dude, one of these days, something's gonna happen, and, like, I can't wait for that day because 'cause I'm not gonna do a fucking thing." And so, yeah, he's, like, egging Kat on. Kat's like, "Why can't we, like," this is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the movie, where she's like, "Why can't we read books, like, by the Bronte sisters or, like, Simone de Beauvoir?" And the teacher, who is black, by the way, is like, "You know what, Kat? I wanna thank you for your point of view, but the next time you decide to storm the PTA about better lunch meat or whatever it is you white girls care about. Why don't you ask them why we can't buy a book written by a black man?" To which the response in the room is from the white Rastas cheering him on, going, "That's right, man." And he just goes, "Don't even get me started about you two." Which is my favorite scene because, like, as a person that went to many a school with white Rastafarian stonehead potheads. Like, oh my god, I've never been more annoyed by people that will act like that and completely ignore and think that
Mhm.
because I'm black, I must be like them. And I'm like, you do realize that everything you are taking for your own from the culture is very much cherry picked and only for your pleasure. Like, you didn't have to do any of the stuff. Like, you don't have to worry about the stereotypes or like any of that stuff that comes with all of that. Like, if I were to do that, people would automatically assume that I'm like a deadbeat or that I don't care about anything or that I don't have a job. Like, it automatically makes me look worse than
Mhm.
you would ever be considered strictly because you're white. So, like, literally shut up. Don't
Yeah.
pretend don't pretend that you care about Black people and Black liberation while cherry picking your favorite parts of them and not worrying about the rest. Like, no.
Well, I mean, like, you can even see that in the movie itself,
Yeah.
when they're being introduced, in towards the beginning. They're called liberal, semi-political, and then Cameron cuts in and he's like, but they just smoke a bunch of pot, right? Like that was the worst thing about them was they just smoke a bunch of pot.
They
Like
just smoke a lot of weed.
otherwise, yeah, otherwise they're, very progressive people.
Yeah. So annoying. Anyway, but yeah, I was like, wow, that representation is so much. And I was like, yes, Black teacher, you tell them.
Hmm.
Because I feel like people like often don't even think about that. Like they're like white people will be like it's very much the same idea of the whole film Get Out is how
Mm,
you'll be like, oh, I want to pick all of the best parts of being Black, but not have to go through any of the oppression and completely ignore that that's a thing that Black people have to deal with every day.
hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, he does that. Um, what's his face walks in. Patrick walks through the
Hmm.
door and goes, "Sorry, I'm late. What did I miss?" And Kat goes, "Just the misogynistic, patriarchal values that dictate our education system." And he says, "Good," and leaves, which is just funny because like that is a good thing to miss.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's ever a class to skip, it's gonna be that one.
Yes, the patriarchal values that are dictating our education system. Um, yeah, and then she gets sent out of class to the office because she's being a nuisance.
Hmm.
So she goes to the office. We meet the guidance counselor again, who very much is very obviously writing smut, and everyone knows it.
Yeah, because at this point, Patrick and Kat have both mentioned it. And then Miss Perky herself, I think, tried to mention it to like her assistant or another
she
office
she asked
assistant. Yeah.
she asked what another word for engorged is, and Kat's like tumescent as she
So
walks
another
into
very
the
smart
office.
character.
So
Hmm.
funny. Yeah, so she like uses big words, which we get another great glimpse of when she sits down and she is talking to the guidance counselor and she's like, "So I hear you're bothering so and so's class again." And she's like, "Oh yeah, apparently like voicing my opinion is like a crime." And she's like, "Okay, Kat, people perceive you as somewhat," and Kat goes, "tempestuous?" And Miss Perky goes, "Heinous bitch is the term used most often." Um, which is just a great back and forth because it really shows you like, yeah, she's really smart. Um, but
And she knows how
yeah,
people
that's how
perceive her.
people see her
Yeah.
and she knows it because she gets that said to her and her response is to just kind of
Pride.
look up and like laugh like, yeah, nice, another little badge for me to wear. Um, and essentially the guidance counselor just tells her like you should maybe work on that, like maybe work on not being horrible to people. Um,
Get some more friends.
yeah, get people to like you a little bit. You don't have to like always be so mean. Um,
I think that was probably like the one time she actually like did her job and
she
gave
actually gave
advice.
some counseling, some guidance.
Hmm.
And then, of course, she's all right. Well, I'll leave and have fun with Reginald's quivering member. Quivering member. I like that. So we go outside in between passing periods, I'm assuming. Um, we now get a better look at Joey and how much of an asshole he is, as he's with his friends, and his friends are Virgin Alert, your favorite, when Bianca walks by. Um, to which they have a horrible conversation where, honestly, I am gonna quote this one because the words that they
Hmm.
use are they're so specific and ugh. So yeah, they say Virgin Alert, your fave. Um, And then someone comments like, "Oh, she's out of reach even for you." And he goes, "No one's out of my reach." And then he goes like, "Oh, you wanna put some money on that?" And he goes, "Money I've got. This, I'm gonna do for fun." Fuck that guy.
If you ever had any doubts that he wasn't a good person, this should have erased them from
It
your
should
mind.
have.
Yeah.
What's funny about this fact or this scene to me is that, like, it was written by women, and, like, any woman that watched that was like, "Oh my god, these guys are the worst."
Mhm.
Most of the men at the time of watching this movie when it came out, and a lot of men even now to this day are just like, "Haha, that's so funny." Because it's just far too
Dicks.
accurate of how men talk to each other about women.
Yeah, the whole, "Oh,
Yikes.
it's just locker room talk."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is one of those scenes where it's like you pay attention to how they talk about Bianca and then contrast it with how, like, Cameron is thinking about Bianca. Like, he was very nice, he never said anything about, like, her being dumb or wanting to just, like, screw her over, or, like, have her as, like, a physical trophy. Like, that's
Mhm.
never how he felt and how he saw her, which you get throughout the movie, literally throughout the whole movie, anytime.
Mhm.
He's and, like, not even just about Bianca, but about, like, every woman. Like, any woman that he refers to ever is talked about as an actual human being.
Yeah, he never says a single bad thing
Mhm.
about a woman, and not even like a, "Oh, she's just tempestuous." Like,
Yeah.
he, the worst thing I think he ever says about anyone is Cat, and he says, "Oh, yeah, I heard she's a little, difficult." Like,
Yeah.
not even mean, just, like, he's
She's
saying,
just
like, "Oh, yeah, she's
difficult.
a very complex character, like, she's got, a lot of depth that people
Actually,
aren't
I
trying
know what
to,
it
like."
is.
Mhm.
It's Bianca is talking to him in their French lesson, and
Mhm.
she says, "Oh, yeah, my sister's a bitch." And then Karen replies, yeah, I've heard she can be a bit difficult." Which is like, how is he being even more respectful than the girl's actual sister?
Well, probably because,
Yeah, definitely
it is
because
her
it's his
sister,
sister.
yeah.
But
But,
yeah, he's great.
mhm. We
Um,
stand Cameron.
and I lied. We actually found out that that she's looking for a French tutor now because he asks who Joey is, and he's like, "That guy's horrible."
Mhm.
What would Bianca see in that guy? Yeah, she just walks away. She says like a quick, witty little statement, doesn't even give him the time of day, and just like, goes on with her day. To which Joey's like, dang, I didn't get to her this time. So then he just kind of like speeds off and goes and talks to Bianca and offers her a ride. Um, to which, they see and they're like, oh, wonderful. Bianca's getting a ride home with Joey. We still don't know they're sisters at this point. Um, Not until afterwards when Kat drives off and she almost hits Michael on his bike, and Michael tells Cameron, like Cameron's like, "Oh my god, like, are you okay?" And he's like,
'Cause
"Oh
Michael
yeah, you."
drives off a small cliff.
Another wonderful nod to Shakespeare's drama.
Yeah.
So good. Um, yeah, he goes like, "Oh yeah, just, another encounter with the shrew. That's your girlfriend's sister, by the way." Um, which again just kind of solidifies the fact that nobody likes Kat or sees her as a likable person at all. So then we go home and Kat's reading the bell jar, and her dad walks in and goes like, "Hello, Kat. Make anyone cry today?" She goes, "Sadly, no, but it's only 4:30." Bianca comes in and says, "Hey, Dad," and Dad says, "Hello, precious." Which even in that interaction shows you the dynamic. Like literally everyone thinks that Bianca is the sweetest, most pure person on the planet, and that Cat is Cat, and that she is to be feared, and
Mhm.
will do whatever she wants and should be expected at this point. Um, I think that's interesting because just as a movie to, like, ingrain those kind of details into how people talk about the characters or, like, how other characters refer to other characters is very telling
Mhm.
of just like, it's a really good way when you're writing, of a way to, like, get a good feel for your character without ever having to, like, know the character. Like, if we
Yeah.
just had just that interaction of, like, them on the phone even, and
Mhm.
you, like, didn't see Kat or Bianca from any other point in the movie and, like, it opened up here, you would still know everything you need to know about Kat and Bianca.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for
Mhm.
like,
And you
there's
know
no
that
way
you
to
can trust it fairly well too, especially considering it's
because it's
coming
the
from the
dad.
dad, yeah.
Yeah. It is just it's really good writing. Um So yeah, so they're at home. They're just like, cute little family. Kat gets into the school Sarah Lawrence, which is a point of contention because the dad is like, "Oh, Sarah Lawrence, I thought you were going to go to school locally, go to the same one that I went to. Super fun." And she kind of responds like, "I didn't decide, you decided. So no, that's not what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do the thing for me." And he's like, "Oh, okay. So what are you gonna just like pack up and leave? Like I'm still your father, you're my daughter, and that's how this works." Um, to which of course we get the nice little sisterly poke from Bianca, who's like, "Oh yeah, let's hope she just gets up and leaves."
Mhm.
Um, which then prompts a dig from Kat about Bianca to her dad saying, "Oh, we'll ask her who drove her home," which is where we really get the whole idea and kind of like the first turning point of the movie, which is the change of the rules of the no dating. And so essentially, dad finds out, boy drove her home, doesn't like the boy. They have this argument about it. Bianca's like, "I'm the only person in school that doesn't date." And he's like, "That's not true. Your sister doesn't date." And she's like, "That doesn't count because she's a mutant and nobody likes her." Okay, well, fine. If that's how it is and you want to date so badly, then I'll make a new rule. New rule is Bianca can date when Kat does, which is funny.
Mhm.
Just the way he delivers the line is great. And, we love this guy because he not only plays a great, hilarious dad in this movie, but he's also the wonderful hairdresser from Princess Diaries.
The one who, gave another great line, after, after Anne Hathaway says, "I look like a moose." He goes, "Yes, but you make all the other boy mooses go, 'Wah!'" But jumping back to 10 Things I Hate About You, one of the great things about the dad, though, is the fact that he knows who Joey is, like, right off the bat. Like, as soon as he hears, "Oh, she got a ride home with Joey," like, he knows his daughters well enough to know that one loves to be feared, the other one loves to feel, to be popular, to be,
She
the
likes
the
being liked,
liked, thank you.
which is
She
weird
likes
she
being
says,
liked.
actually.
Yeah. Um, and so he knows his daughters, he knows the kids at their school, he knows their reputations. Like, he is a present dad in their lives. He's overprotective, but he
Yeah.
knows them and kind of like what's going on in their day to day.
He really does, which is really funny considering he's a doctor and literally
Mhm.
gets called, like, immediately after this conversation to go to work.
Yeah.
Which I feel like isn't shown a lot of times, like, a lot of times when it's, like, the dad as the main or, like, the main caregiver of, like
Mhm.
or, like, the dad as, like, the single parent, like,
Mhm.
he's generally kind of, like, seen as, like, always gone, works too hard, doesn't have time for his
Mhm.
kids, whereas, like, no, he's very much present, he knows his kids, he knows a lot about them, like, to the point where he can, like, literally predict things as they're
Yeah.
happening, like, without just
Yeah.
having to, like, get up and see anything. Like, yes, he knows
1999 and he's
all of
yeah,
like,
1999 and he's achieved work-life balance
honestly,
as a single dad.
as a single dad, yeah. And, like, he didn't say anything bad about the moms, like, the
Mm-mm.
girls aren't, like don't have to fend for themselves either. At no point in this movie do we get the, like, impression that, like, one of them has had to parent the other, because
Mhm.
that's kind of the point of contention for Kat and, Bianca is that, like, Kat's the older sister, she's trying to, like, protect Bianca, everyone's trying to protect Bianca, and Bianca's kinda just like, "I have a dad, you're not my dad, you're my sister.
Yeah.
I want you to be my sister and not my protector."
Yeah, well, and like you said, she's a protector, not a parent.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's trying to teach Bianca, like, the ways of the world. She's like, "I know the ways of the world, and they're not great, so I'm gonna try to spare you that."
Trust me on this one. Yeah, which I feel being the oldest.
Yeah, second oldest here. I had my younger brothers to worry about.
Um, oh yeah, so now's the scene where, Cameron and Bianca are tutoring.
Mhm.
They're in the library, they're talking. Cameron essentially asks her out, says like, "Oh, we should go get food somewhere, or maybe if it's like school related, your dad will let you do it." And she's like, "Well, no, but also at this point, my dad just changed the rule. So if you really did want to take me out, like, you would just have to find someone to take my sister out." This is, yeah, that conversation that we were talking about where he refers to Kat very nicely and respectfully.
Mhm.
He's even down to the point where he's like, "Yeah, it's like extreme dating. Like, she's not horrible. It's just like, a thrill."
Yeah.
He kind of sold that though.
Mhm.
He
Meanwhile,
sold
Bianca
it
is
perfectly.
just manipulating this poor cinnamon roll of a boy.
Yeah, she's manipulating the crap out of him
Mhm.
because immediately after, well, not even like as she's doing it, she goes like, "He would do that for me," and then like immediately later, like is hanging out with Joey and is like, "Yeah, we should go hang out."
Yeah.
Like, and she's aware of what she's doing. Like,
Oh,
she
fully.
knows it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so
She
he
always gets her way, and so she has no doubt in her mind that she'll get her way again through Cameron,
yeah,
and she and so far in her mind just doesn't believe that there's gonna be consequences for this.
yeah, she definitely doesn't understand that there are consequences for people who are manipulative, even if they're pretty. Because, like, I
Mhm.
mean, what you have with that, everyone else in the school also gets away with it.
Mhm.
So yeah, that prompts Cameron to talk to Michael and try to get a plan going of, like, finding who they can to take date out to take Cat out on a date. They gather up a group of guys and they're like, "Oh, yes, these are our options, they're great," and they all are like, "Absolutely not." It's a really funny little comedic scene. And basically, they end up in class kind of deciding, "Oh, you know what? Our classmate Patrick might be the perfect guy." Um, Patrick being the guy that is sitting next to his best friend who's, like, this hardcore punk-looking guy, um, dissecting a frog. He, like, stabs the frog, and he's, like, playing with the fire. He, like, lights a cigarette in the middle of the class, and the punk friend, like, takes a cigarette out of his, like, mouth and, like, puts it out. And
I
so,
think,
like,
like, in
giving
the
him a good
frog, yeah.
he does, yeah.
And
Giving
imagine,
him
like,
just, like,
okay,
cool
so
things.
just imagine, like, I'm sure at this point, most everyone has dissected a frog for school at some point. Like, you know how
Mhm.
nasty that smells. Now imagine, like,
The
putting a
burning
cigarette out in
formaldehyde. That frog should have caught on fire.
Oh, yeah, true.
Like, why would they just have open flame?
Well, it was a
Just
Bunsen
have
burner, he turned it on,
flame.
yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. And, yeah, so they really just give you, like, the visual like, we haven't heard much from or about Patrick at all, just that he's, like, flirty, he's played a prank.
And he
That's
skips
pretty much it,
class.
and then we see him now oh, yeah, he skips class, and we see him now in contrast with who is generally the stereotypical, like, bad guy, does all of those things as well, and he is definitely worse.
Mhm.
But just, like, even the visual of that really kinda gives you everything you need to know about Patrick in that moment. I think they try to approach him in their next class, which is like a woodworking class or something. He's like drilling
Mhm.
holes, drills a hole through the textbook. They don't even get a chance to ask their question. Which kind of leads them to have kind of like a defeat, and they're like, okay, obviously this guy's perfect because of just everything about him would scream like he wouldn't be scared of Cat.
Mhm.
And
People are
then kind
scared
of
of
setting up the
him, people are
precedent.
scared of Cat. Now they can be a power couple together.
Honestly. Um, so yeah, this kind of leads to the next main plot point of the movie being they need to find a way to get Patrick to take Cat out. Um, which leads them to Joey. They essentially decide like, oh, maybe we could pay him and he would take Cat out. That way I can hang out with Bianca. Um, and yeah, and they're like, okay, well, let's pitch it this way. They go up to Joey and they pitch to Joey that like everyone's in love with Bianca, especially also Joey, and it's very widely known. So he's like, well, if you want to go out with her, just get someone to date her sister. We already know the perfect guy. You get to date her, and it's great. Like the only thing that we want is to be considered cool. Like we say hi to you in the hallway, you say hi back. He's like, yeah, cool, cool by association, got it. He's completely unaware of the fact that their plan is actually to get him to pay Patrick to take Cat out, so that while Joey is setting up his dates, he can Cameron can actually be hanging out with Bianca.
I feel like
Um,
as smart as this theoretically is, only a high school guy could come up with this and think it would work. And sorry, and let me clarify, and think that it would work.
and think that it would work. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, and honestly, considering that this is also the plot of the play, like the whole thing of the play is that Bianca can't get married until Kat does. They need to find someone to marry Kat, and like the way that they go about it in the play isn't even like this. Like it's just worse.
Mhm.
Like, in the play, the plan is, "Oh, I know this guy, he kinda sucks and he doesn't care who he marries as long as she's rich, and Kat's rich, so he'll marry her without even seeing her." And so they go to him and they're like, "You should marry her," and he goes, "Okay." And he
Cuz
goes,
that's it.
"Cool, I'm." Um, yeah, and then the rest of the play is him trying to get his wife to be obedient, which wow,
Mhm.
yikes. So, like, the fact that they were able to take that and turn it into, "Let's get this guy to think that he's being the guy," like, and paying him to go out on the dates, but then we actually get to hang out with the girl in the end is, like, perfect, like, to change it to that is
Mhm. Brilliant and smart.
yeah, writing geniuses, honestly. So, yeah, so that is the plan. Um, they don't even really have to do anything. He
I'm sorry. You just said you basically unintentionally quoted the movie.
I did, yeah. I realized it as soon as it came into my mouth. I'm gonna go show someone else the plan. Uh, great scene. Um, so yeah, uh, Joey now is gonna go approach Patrick and be like, "Hey, Patrick, I'm, gonna pay you to take this girl out." And he's like, "Literally what? Who are you? I don't even know who you are." And he goes, "That doesn't matter. You see that girl?" Points to Kat. "I wanna take out her sister. Only way I'll be able to take her out is if I find someone to take Kat out. So, how about I pay you to do it?" And he's like, no." And he goes, "I'll pay you a lot." To which he's kind of like, "Yeah, this is still dumb." but I could probably get some money out of it, so that's fun, like, let me just play around with the pretty boy, and he ups his price, like, a lot. I
Mhm.
think doing it off, like, $20, and then Cat
I
does
think it
something.
almost started with, like, $10, to be honest. I think.
Yeah, it's like a low number, and then
Mhm.
Cat does something, and he raises it by, like, $10. He's like, "Fine, 30." And Patrick's like, "Excuse me?" Let's say I do take her out, we go see a movie, that's already, like, 40 bucks. He goes, "We get popcorn." Now we're looking at,
45.
what, like, 48, 45. And he's like, "She wants some Raisinets." Now we're at, like, 52, so maybe give me a little bit more money than that. I don't
Mhm.
even remember how much on.
Well, they got to the Raisinets and it got to 72. I think he said, "Let's round it up to, like, 75."
For one date, right? And he's like,
Mhm.
"Okay, fine. I'll pay you 75 bucks. You take her out. Deal's a deal." And then, of course, Patrick tries to, like, go up to Kat and be like, "Hey, girly."
Just immediately, knowing nothing about her,
Yeah,
kind
literally
of.
just
I mean,
walks
it
up
is a fairly small
walks up
school,
to
it
her
seems. Mhm.
and is like, "Hey, girly, how you doing?" And she's like, "Sweating like a pig, actually."
Oh,
He's
just what
just
every
like,
man wants to hear.
yeah, he's like, "Oh, every man wants to hear." And she goes, "Ah, my goal in life."
Mhm.
But obviously it's just fancy, so the world makes sense again. She walks off, he's like, "I'll take you to never been before." And she goes, "What, like the Broadway on 7-Eleven, the 7-Eleven on Broadway? What do you want, fuckboy?" You know, same difference. And yes, I did just quote that entire scene.
Yeah. We've seen this movie too many times.
So great. Um, so yeah, she's like, "What do you want?" He's like, "Obviously, I just wanna take you out." And she's like, "No, like, why would I do that? Um, go along, be on your way." She, like, walks away, leaving him defeated. So that's Cat 1, Patrick 0. Um, so then, of course, they're presented with the problem of, sorry, I was writing down the scoreboard right now.
Let me go to my notes.
Um, but basically, now Michael and Cameron have to go and be like, "Hey, so now that Joey's approached you, Patrick, about dating, you should know that we actually came up with that plan."
Sorry,
I did
you
that
are
again.
skipping a bit, yeah. So after this, we've got the short scene where we learn that the mom's not dead, she's left because they talk about Bianca's
Ooh, the
pearls.
pearls.
Yeah. Um, and the pearls are a nice little touch because pearls are always have always been considered kind of like as a visual cue for like elegance and class and
Mm, yeah,
maturity. And now we see that even though Bianca's very young, she's now wearing pearls and she's kind of like growing into being a teenager.
yeah.
Um, but right after that, I believe Patrick is outside the music store leaning on Kat's car. And Kat
Mhm.
comes out of the music store and Patrick tries to hit on her again. He
Oh,
tries
yes,
to like
number
show
2.
in yeah, he tries to show interest like in her car because it's an old car, like it's a very old beat up car, but it
Mhm.
and I don't know cars myself,
Yeah,
but
something
it's
about
in the
the
style
leather and
yeah, well, it's in the style of, like, an old classic car, so I'm
yeah.
assuming it's an old, classic, and really the only people who drive those cars are people who are car people,
Mhm.
so he sees her in, like, a small music store, with her old classic car and, like, tries to relate to her through her interests, and she just,
Because the
like
first time didn't work so well.
yeah. Well, the first time he tries to come off as like this smooth, suave guy, right? Well, he
Yeah,
tries flirting with her. He tries to do like, the very general broad stroke.
pickup line,
Yeah.
yeah.
And now, yeah, and now that that's failed, he's like, all right, let's get a little bit more focused here. Let's go for her interests. And she opens up to him like a little bit. Like she kind of laughs at him and doesn't like immediately shoot him down, but still kind of like does shoot him down. It's like, all right, we've had our fun. Now be on your way.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get the second PMS joke. No, sorry. And then as Kat's about to leave, Joey pulls up right behind her and gets out of his car and
Boxes her into the
boxes her
squad
in.
bed.
Yeah. And
And
Kat and
she's like
Joey,
hanging there.
yeah, Kat and Joey are oil and fire. Like when they're together, it's just bad things happen. Um, and so she backs up into his car and just punches a hole in it. Um, and then we get the second PMS joke of the movie where it smash cuts to the dad going, "Whoops, whoops, my insurance doesn't cover whoops." Um, or doesn't
Doesn't
cover
cover PMS.
PMS. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
tell them I had a seizure. Great. Yeah. No, that scene is awesome too because it really does kind of show you like, okay, she's entertaining Patrick, like even a little bit,
mhm,
much more than she would with Joey. Um, and that kind of shows you just kind of like in her head where both of them stand. Like for us, we know Joey is like deplorable. We hate him. She does not like Joey. She does not engage with Joey. She immediately does the thing to like, just get out of the situation, like, whatever it takes kind of a thing. Doesn't engage,
mhm,
just, acts. With Patrick so far, she's still kind of, like, toying with him in a way, like, she's still engaging and entertaining, like, the fact that he is trying to talk to her and approaching her, like, even though she's being, like, funny and witty and, like, turning him down, she's doing it in a much different way than she does with Joey, whereas, like, she's still engaging with him and, like, kind of having that, like, repertoire, like, that back and forth,
mhm.
like,
Banter,
fun, like, banter, yeah. Um,
but it's still now Cat 2, Patrick 0.
yes, I do have a tally going. And, yeah, so, basically, the dad's mad, he's, like, literally, "Could you be nicer to people because, like, now I have to pay for it."
Mhm.
Bianca comes in and is like, "Oh my god, what did you do to Joey's car? I can't believe you did that." And she's like, "Literally, you're so mean, blah, blah, blah. I hate you so much, meh." Um, Kinda just showing you again, like, the dynamic of the sisters, one of them being super alike, the other one not being liked, the one that is liked, really caring about being liked and likes being liked, and Kat being like, "I don't care about that at all. Like, I literally don't care, and you shouldn't either." This is constant thing between the 2 of them of, like, Cat being like, "You don't have to always be who they want you to be. You can be your own person," like,
She
it's
tries
never
very hard to be counterculture.
yeah, um, is this when they
So the next Patrick's price goes up. He approaches Joey and is like, "Hey,
oh,
look, she's a pretty badass girl. This is gonna be
yeah,
hard."
2 times
Um,
now, this has backfired, so you're gonna
yeah.
have to be
And then that's when Cameron and Michael decide to help because obviously it's not going very well.
Mhm,
Um, so Cameron and Bianca raid Kat's bedroom and they find kind of like more of what interests Kat and kind of like what makes Kat
mhm,
Kat.
and they
And
also let Patrick know at this point that, like, the
mhm.
whole point isn't
Oh,
so Joey gets the girl, it's so that Cameron gets the girl,
yeah, yeah. So they clue in
or like a
Patrick to
shot.
the
Mhm,
yeah to the overall goal.
yeah.
Um, but while we're
Which
in,
he kinda goes along with, He's like,
yeah,
"Okay, yeah, that's better than Joey. Joey sucks."
yeah,
I'll take
and
that
he,
one, sure.
and he doesn't care because he's getting paid either way. But I mean, I
Yeah.
did because we do know that he's a good guy. That he would, probably prefer that a nice girl be taken care of. Who gets
Mhm.
a nice girl gets asked out by a nice guy. Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah, so they raid Kat's bedroom, Bianca and Cameron, and they basically find like concert tickets, what she likes in music, where she hangs out, etc. They find that she has black underwear, and for Bianca, that apparently means that Kat wants to have sex one day, um, which does come into like it is kind of an important thing a little bit later in the film, which is why I'm bringing it up.
Mhm.
Um, And so they present all of this information to Patrick, and they're like, "Yeah, she's gonna be at this club. You have to go." And this brings us to, in my opinion, the biggest mystery of the movie, which is why Patrick thinks he cannot be seen at Club Skunk. Why does he say he can't be seen there? Because when he goes in the very next scene, he's like walking around and whatever, and then he like goes up to the bartender and shakes hands with the bartender. The bartender's like, "Hey, Verona, what's up, my guy?" So like
I okay. So my theory is he's just friends with the bartender. I don't think he knew that the bartender was specifically gonna be there at least that day. If he's actually just friends with him in real life, he probably knows that he works there because he knows of Club Skunk. But my
But why does he
theory
say he can't be seen there?
is
Because you would
because
think
it's a
that would be
lesbian
friends.
bar. I think it's a lesbian bar.
You think it's a lesbian bar, that's right.
Yeah, because we counted. There is at most,
5
excluding the
men, maybe.
bartender excluding the bartender, there's, I think, yeah, 4 men, so there'd be 5 men in the entire scene, and it's a
Yeah.
club bar full of women, and the men who look like they've been dragged there. Because all the men we do see are on the outskirts of every shot.
Yeah, that's true. I still don't see why he can't be seen there, though.
Because he's a teenage guy who cares about his reputation, and he doesn't wanna be seen in a lesbian bar.
But he
Because
does
he's a
care about
punk
your
rock guy.
reputation.
Huh?
And, like, he knows the bartender, which means he must know that the bartender works there.
Oh, yeah,
You don't
yeah,
just
I mean,
know a bartender from, like, other places. Like, that's very rare that you would know a bartender and then just see them at a different bar and be like, "What are you doing here?" Because, like, that's weird. That's not how it works.
well, I think he knows him outside of Club Skunk. I think he knows him from somewhere else, and then just kinda knows that he happens to work at Club Skunk.
I disagree.
That's
Agree to
fine.
disagree.
Okay.
I very much wanna know what it is about Club Skunk that he's so worried about his
Yeah,
reputation.
everyone needs to chime in. Tell us, is it a lesbian bar? Is it a normal bar? Why can't
Is it a
Patrick be
lesbian
seen
bar?
there?
Yeah, why can't he be seen there? Because like, what about it being a lesbian bar makes it so that he can't be seen there? I don't understand. Like, and, like, if it is a lesbian bar, what are the odds that he would be seen there anyway? Like, whose reputation is he worried about? He doesn't have anyone's reputation to worry about except for his own, and it only works if there's other people to, like, ruin it. Whatever, it's fine.
I still think he cares too much about his own reputation. So,
But he goes.
yeah, I know he does. He's being paid to go though.
That's true. I mean, he goes, he's being paid to go, but, like, he doesn't do the whole, like, "Let me hide" thing. Like, he goes and just, like,
Mm.
hangs out with the bartender, like,
Yeah.
acts like he's
Well,
supposed to be there.
he what's that one thing? It's not negging, because negging's when you, like, insult a girl and then, like, walk away essentially, but he basically he plays disinterested.
Hard to get.
Yeah, he plays hard to get, and that actually catches Kat's attention,
Like
because
a
she's
simple
just
cat.
yeah. Exactly, there we go, another pun.
Yeah,
Um
because she approaches him because she
mhm.
sees him drinking at the bar when she goes to get waters, and he's like, he's not looking at her, he's turned the other way facing the band, and she goes like, "Really? Like, are you following that? Are you following me now? Like, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Do you mind? You're kinda ruining this for me. Are you joking? You've literally done this to me twice." Which is just funny, and then she comments on the fact that he isn't smoking, like, "Oh, well, you're not surrounded by your usual cloud of smoke," and he goes, "Yeah." apparently they're bad for you. You think? She gets up to kinda walk away, and he follows her, so, like, keeps the conversation going. She allows him to follow. And he's like, "You know, they're not bad. They're not, Bikini Kill or the Raincoats, but they're not bad." And she's like, "You know who the Raincoats are?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, don't you?" Which honestly is a great line.
Mhm. But we see
Um,
now, so not only is he playing hard to get, but he's, like, bearing down and focusing on her actual interests and things that she likes.
yeah, and, like, I'm almost convinced that he also likes these things.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
these are actually just things that he likes and is like, "Oh, great." Something I
Mhm.
know.
Mhm. Well,
I'm
'cause he
convinced he actually likes Club Skunk and goes there often, and he just said that for the other people in that bar to think that he doesn't go there often.
agree to disagree. I think he does have at least a similar music taste. Um, I disagree about Club Skunk.
Y'all better weigh in. This we really wanna know. What are your
Yeah, we've
thoughts?
actually talked about this quite a lot. Like, we argue
We've
about
spent
this.
a lot of time just this one thing. Um, yeah, so now she's like, "Okay, so you know who the Raincoats are." Like, she's now kind of like, "Okay, I give you permission to keep talking to me." And he's like,
Mhm.
"Yo, I saw you the other there, and I've never seen you look so sexy." But as he says it, like, all the music stops and everyone hears him, to which is, like, one of those moments of, like, "Oh, shoot, that was awkward. I just said something really loud and everybody heard it, and they also heard me calling you sexy." But he doesn't, like, try to be like, "Oh, that's not what I said." Like, he kinda just accepts it and is like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool." Like,
Yeah.
laughs it off, and we know that it's a genuine reaction to that because that is such a crazy situation to be in, you
Mhm.
know? And, like, Kat also accepts that as, "Oh, LOL, that was kinda funny. Like, you meant it, thank you, and okay, thanks," kind of a thing. Um, and then he's like, "Are you going to the party that they're throwing?" Bogey, Lowenstein.
Mhm.
Michael is revenge on this guy who has outed him in his nerd group, by throwing a party at this guy's house without this guy knowing. So this party also gives them the perfect opportunity to go on a date. And so he asks Kat about the party, and Kat's like, "I've heard about the gay thing." He goes, "Will you go with me?" And she goes, "Mm," and like walks away, like funny.
Mm. He asked Kat about the party.
Oh, yeah, because "Are you
That's when he
going to
started.
Bogey's party on this time? Or are you going to Bogey's party?" And she kind of was like, I've heard about it. I don't know yet." And he goes, "Do you want to go with me?" And she doesn't answer. She kind of just starts like walking away back to her friend. And he goes, "Was that a yes?" And she says, "No." And he goes, "Was that a no then?" And she says, "No."
Mhm.
Um, which is one of those things where I like to bring it up because oftentimes when folks watch this movie, um, one of the things is like consent is one of the things that's
Mhm.
kind of brought up. And I like to point to this scene because this is very much a way of like not saying
He's
no.
Yeah, well, he
Like
he
he's being
very
rude about
clearly
it.
asks for consent. Like, "Hey, do you wanna
Mhm.
go? Can I keep doing this? Like, are we flirting?"
Yeah,
And
and
she,
she
like she does
lets
positively respond, yeah.
she responds with a, "I'm not saying no. I'm
Mhm.
not saying yes because I'm gonna
Yeah, I'm
keep
still
up
feeling
this
you
like
out,
back
yeah.
and forth a little more." But like overall, it is a yes to keep pursuing.
Mhm.
So like he's not being rude at this point. Like any
Mhm.
point after this, him pursuing her is 100% okay.
Mhm.
Uh, So yeah.
Consensual pursuing.
Well, because like that's the thing is that like a
Consent to
lot of
flirt.
yeah, like a lot of guys don't understand that like you can still be sexually harassing someone by being like flirty with them when they don't
Mhm.
want to be like that is harassment.
Yeah.
Or like it can be harassment. Like if the person has said like no, I don't wish to be, which she's not said yet. Like
Mhm.
every single time that he has approached her in like a hey, I want to take you out kind of way, or like oh, I'm interested, like she has entertained the conversation, which like is different than how she does with Joey, where she's just like
She shuts him
no,
down. Yeah.
like like it's
Mhm.
not one of those like oh, I'm gonna entertain it for a little bit and then I'm gonna be like no, like it's very, it should be very obvious that
Mhm.
she is okay with Patrick pursuing her in all iterations of this happening throughout the film. Um, Lord Almighty, what happens next?
It's the party. The girls,
Oh yeah, Bianca
Chastity
and
and
Chastity get
Bianca.
caught
Yeah.
sneaking out that night. So they get caught sneaking out with their dad. Um, and Kat, this is one of those situations where Kat's like, I wasn't gonna go. No, I'm not going. This stupid party. The things that you think are gonna happen are gonna happen. So like, no, don't go. And then this is where Bianca's like, just be my sister this once and go to this party so that I can go. Like this one time, please. And so Kat does eventually decide, like, okay, fine. You're my sister. I'll go. Like, whatever. Um, the dad makes Bianca wear the belly.
Which is hilarious. Um,
It's like an empathy, like pregnant belly, and he's like, every time you even think about kissing a boy, I want you to picture this under your halter top.
yeah. It's kind of like a fat suit, except it's a pregnant suit.
It's like weighted, and it's called like
Yeah.
the empathy belly for
It will,
people that
and it's not
can't
even just
experience
like a
pregnancy.
yeah, it's not even like just the belly part of being a pregnant woman. It's got like the boobs too, because like your boobs get bigger when you're pregnant, which means they're
Yeah,
gonna weigh a whole
everything
lot
is
more.
like,
Yeah.
and it's weighted. So like you actually like even I think she even stands in a way where she's like, I have to support my back because this thing is so
Mhm.
heavy. Like it's like a legitimate device that is used. So he makes her wear that, and what I find funny and even more interesting about it is that he does seem to be a little bit more worried about them getting pregnant. Granted, he is an OBGYN that delivers babies, but like this whole time, it doesn't seem to him that he's really worried about like the sex part. He's worried about them getting pregnant and like ruining their lives, which I just think is funny because up until this point, it's just like if you look at the grand scheme of like a woman's life, generally you're told don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant, don't get pregnant. It'll ruin your life. It'll ruin your life. And then as soon as you get married, it's
So when
you
are
need
you
to get
having
married.
kids? Yeah.
You need to have children. You're ruining my life.
Mhm.
And it's like if this is supposed to ruin my life up until I like got married, then why in the frick would you expect me to have children? You said it was going to
Yeah.
ruin my life. Why would I want to
The
do
math ain't
that?
mathin'.
Like, um, but yeah, it does. He does though make some comments though about other things. Like he just doesn't want to be, or he doesn't want his kids to like be doing things that would get them like arrested or like actually ruin their lives. You know, he says something about like it's such a great series of things. He goes like, no kissing, no drinking, no like
Drugs.
dancing, no drugs, no animal sacrifices of any kind. He goes, oh God, I'm giving them ideas.
I used to quote, I think that was the first quote that I like consistently used from a movie, like ever, because I just thought it was hilarious.
I use one from the same scene, but earlier when she's like, or she doesn't even say it. I'm pretty sure it's Chastity that says this. He goes, "Oh, it's just a party," and he goes, "And hell is
Mm.
just a sauna." Wonderful.
But
So
right
yeah,
after
he's like,
this, oh,
giving them the
mhm.
breakdown, and then Kat's like, "Oh my God, yes, we get it. Like, let's go." She's like, she opens the door and Patrick's just there, and
He
she's like, "Why are you
yeah.
here?"
We assume that he's just walked up via the motion that he like kind of does.
Yeah, and he's like, 9:30, right? Oh, I'm early. And so like, kind of everyone's surprised that like a guy's actually
Mhm.
here for Kat and they're going somewhere,
Mhm.
which is just really funny. And then he says like, "Oh, who knocked up your sister?" Which is
And
just a
Bianca
great
just
physical bonding
glares
moment.
at him. Yeah. But then right after
Too good.
this, yeah, right after this, we do get a really cute scene of Cameron and Michael getting ready. And like they're both really nervous for different reasons. Cameron is nervous because like, he really wants to impress Bianca, and he's pretty sure that well, and I'm assuming, he's been talking to Patrick. He knows that Kat is going to go because Patrick's going to take her, which means Bianca gets to
Mhm,
go so he can chat her up and now they can finally go on a date. So he's nervous
mhm,
because it's his first date. Michael's very nervous because it's the first party he's been to.
mhm.
Um and they both kind of like share their feelings and their worries for each other, and they don't put either like each other down. Like they're both very much like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
they're
your
really
worry is
adorable.
valid. Yeah, your worry is valid. I'm here for you. I'm going to support you, but like also like, bro, I need you. I'm worried."
Yeah, they're like so cute. They're like,
Mhm.
"Okay, how are we gonna do this? What's the plan? Do we are we good? Are we good?" And then I
Mhm.
just love that
Trying
Cameron,
to hype each
like
other
when we
up.
get this scene, he's talking about how he had been talking to Bianca earlier, and he's like, "Yeah, so I told her that I thought she didn't, or she told me that I was right. She didn't wear the Jimmy Choos with that dress because it would be a mixing of genres, and the fact that I noticed really meant something." And it's just
Direct
funny
quote.
because Michael replies and he just goes, "You said that part already," which is also just great because it's like he's been listening like this whole time,
Mhm.
even in the midst of stressing about himself, like they're listening to each other, they're trying to like help each other out. It's just a
Yeah.
precious scene because like one, you don't get men talking to men in this way. You normally
Mhm.
get the way that men talk to men in the way that we saw earlier with Joey
Mhm.
and his friend. So to have this contrast is really great representation, and it's like healthy representation for men because it's like yes, you
Yeah.
can talk about women without objectifying and sexualizing them.
Mhm. It
And you
also
can do it to
it
your friends too.
Yeah, and it hits home too, a fact that like this is a movie about teenagers, and it's very much about like the struggles of being a teenager. And it shows you kind of
Mhm.
like various people and their various struggles and how they're all very different, but they all fit together. And what they all have in common is all of their worries, all of their problems are taken seriously. And anytime they do talk to an adult about them, about their like worries or struggles or problems, the adult takes them seriously. Like he listens, like they listen to whatever is going on. They give feedback. It's not always good feedback, but like they give relevant feedback. Like usually it's Miss Perky who doesn't give the good
Yeah.
feedback. The teacher gives a really very realistic like, your worries, they're good worries, but also consider this. And then the dad's
Yeah.
always there trying to, fix the problem like, hey, like you're my daughters, I love you, how do I make this better? But even in his overprotectiveness, he knows like their limits. Like he knows when to
Mhm.
like be there and then when to pull back. Like he pulled back, like he listened to his daughters. When he listened to Bianca when she
Yeah.
said like, "Hey, I want to date. This isn't fair. Let me date." And he's like, "Okay, fine. You can date, but we're going to compromise. Kat has to date first." Like all of these kids get what all teenagers want. Like they just want to be heard, they just want to be listened to. And it doesn't matter who it's
Mhm.
coming from, an adult figure, their friends, like they're taken seriously, and none of them are like brushed aside. They're not condescended to. Um,
I would say
and
that is for everyone except for Kat.
I mostly agree with that. I think the problem with Kat is um she's trying to fight a fight that people don't know enough info about, and they know they don't know
Yeah.
enough about it. And so instead of engaging with her, they just accept whatever she says at face value.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty much what I was gonna say, was, like, she does need help, she doesn't, like, ask for it, and then in
Mhm.
scenes where she kind of does let her guard down a little bit, like and I was g later after, um, a little bit farther into this, but when she is talking to the teacher again and she's like, "No, I like this assignment, like,
Mhm.
I genuinely, like, enjoy this and learning from you," and, like, he actually sends her to the principal's office and, like, does kind of, like, write her off. He's like, "You're just messing with me, like, go ahead, like, whatever."
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where, like, it's kinda sad because it's like her or the way she's perceived is so ingrained
Mhm.
into every thought, they kind of forget to actually look for her and to see,
Mhm.
like, who which is why it's so important that, like, when she opens herself up to Patrick and Patrick, like, opens himself up to her, that they
Mhm.
actually do see each other and all of that, like, even though Kat is the strong one of the 2
Mhm.
sisters, I kind of recognizes, like, I've been expecting you to kinda be this, like, strong, protected person this whole time, and I've never
Mhm.
really about if you don't have to be that way. Like, I've wanted Bianca to be like you think that
Mhm.
you want you to be like Bianca, but I actually like, I'm glad that you're bringing this up because you're talking to me now about actually having things that you want and aspire to do that aren't just being a strong individual.
Mhm. Mhm.
You're asking to be challenged in a way, like academically, to go somewhere else to experience life in a way that you haven't been able to do here because of how everyone sees you and how we've been seeing you this whole time.
Mhm. Jumping
Um,
back a little bit though, specifically when she has those moments with Patrick, because she's such a strong individual, and then you've got like um, essentially the bulldozer that's Patrick, just trying to like get his way as fast as he can into her feelings. When Kat does open up to him, and when she does share like her inner life with him, it doesn't feel like a win for Patrick. It feels like a win for Kat because we see that like
yeah.
she's allowing herself to lower her walls. She's allowing herself
Mhm.
to try to form what she thinks is a genuine connection with another person. She's trying to listen to what everyone's telling her. And she really does want to have some form of human connection that isn't
Mhm.
just her one friend and her dad and maybe her sister depending on the day. Um and so she when she opens herself up, we see it as moments of growth for Kat
Mhm.
and not as a win for Patrick, who's just trying to get into her good books.
Yeah. And, like, Patrick completely is like, "Oh, she's doing it," and he
Mhm.
reciprocates it.
Mhm. He
Like,
does.
not just because she's opening up, but because he's like, "Oh, I actually also do wanna feel this like, I feel connected. I have a connection with
Mhm.
you, and I'm going to reciprocate this connection that we feel."
Mhm.
Um, and you see that almost perfectly at the end of this party that they're at, because, she goes to the party, has a run-in with Joey. Joey says a stupid thing about her sister, which gets to her. She decides that she's gonna get drunk so that she doesn't have to think about it anymore. And, she does the whole party thing. She does the table dance. She gets really drunk. She hits her head and possibly, probably has a
Mhm.
concussion. No, she doesn't have a concussion because she passes out,
Mhm.
even if
Well,
it's
and she d
versus
well,
like
I was about to say
major.
she gets sick too, but she's also been drinking a lot.
Yeah, she's, like, really sick. So Patrick, like, tries to take care of her,
Mhm.
He doesn't like try to take advantage of her in any way. They're honestly such a pair.
Mhm.
I was just imagining when they're like walking around and she's like, "Man, leave me alone." And he's like, "I love that even in this state, you're still just like
Consistent.
this."
Yeah.
So consistent. I think he says something like, "Who needs love when you've got blind hatred?"
Yeah.
She says something, I forget what it is. And she like laughs it off, like, haha, very funny.
Mhm.
Um, the
I
chemistry
think
is
it well,
great.
I think she tells him too, just in line with the consent that it's not that she hates him.
Yeah.
She just doesn't like anyone.
Yeah.
But right after the party scene, we do get Cameron and Bianca. Well, so sorry, hold on.
During the
I'm getting
party,
ahead. Yeah, I'm
Cameron
getting
and
ahead of
Bianca have a
myself.
little bit of a they like kind of run into each other. She's already found Joey, but at this moment she's walking with Chastity. Cameron bumps into her, kind of. Michael finds her and is like, there she
Mhm.
is. Cameron goes up to her and is like, hey. At this point you can tell that Bianca like feels guilty and that she has not been enjoying her time with Joey because Joey's pretty much just talked about himself the whole time. Um, yeah, and so like when she sees Cameron, she kind of pushes Chastity to him and is like, "Oh, let me divert the conversation from me. And have you met so and so?" And they're like, "Literally, but yes. What are you doing?" Like they're kind of confused at the moment, but it's very much in a way where like Cameron kind of immediately tunes into the fact that like, oh, here comes Joey. Joey walks up. Hey, Bianca, we're gonna go talk over here. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out with Joey, but like I'll see you later, Cameron. Totally blows him off, and he like knows that. Like he
Yeah,
understands
Cameron
that, and
gets the clue. Like he takes a hint.
he's very sad about it. And yeah. Like even to the point where like he goes up to Patrick and is like, you know what, like you don't have to keep like pretending to date Kat. Deals off. Like she's not into me. And Patrick kind of gives him like a pep talk. He's like, hey, like look, don't give up just because like she doesn't seem to be into you, kind of a thing. Like her not being into you has just as much to do with the fact that like like Joey's right there. Like she's been giving you the time of day so far, so I don't see why you should stop. Like it's just this one instance, like this one time. Like she did say she would see you later, etc. Like don't read too much into this. Don't think that like your self-worth is tied to this either. Like you're a good guy, and if she can't see that, then like, move on. Like you deserve better. You deserve someone that like cares. And he's like,
Mhm.
you're right. That's yes. Which is also great representation because you don't often see
Yeah.
men and like that, or even talking about their feelings like that.
Mm-mm. Yeah. And it gives more depth to Patrick too, because not only is he like trying to take care of Kat in this moment,
Yeah,
he
he like takes the time out of that to be
yeah.
like, hey, I'm gonna speak some life into you,
Mhm.
man.
Yeah, he takes the moment to just be like, "Yo, Cameron, if you think she's worth it,
Mhm.
she's worth it. If she doesn't think you're worth it, then that's bad on her."
Yeah,
Um,
which
and
at
it's
this
nice.
point,
It's like a nice little like older brother moment. It's so cute.
it's so precious. Yeah, they're like besties. I like that they
Mhm.
like legitimately become friends after this.
Oh yeah.
um, I haven't been saying the scoreboard out loud, but Patrick
Oh, I was gonna ask.
is they're even right now, 2-2.
Um. So hold on. Let me
Patrick
go back
because
to my
of the
notes.
is that a no? No.
Okay. Yeah.
And showing up at her door when she like sees him, he's like, "Oh, I said 9:30. I'm a little bit early." And she goes, "Whatever, I'm driving." It's another yes.
Mhm.
2-2.
Okay. Yeah. Because I was gonna ask about
This then
the.
becomes 3-2 when he takes her. after this and is like, "All right, let's go walk to the car." And she's like, no, walking is not a thing. I need to sit." And they sit on the swing and they have a cute little conversation. And then she throws up and he holds her hair back. It's such a cute, like, he just kind of goes like, "It's okay."
Mhm.
She's like dying. But it is one of those, it's exactly what we were talking about, that scene where they're opening up to each other because when she sits down, he asks her like, "Why'd you let him get to you?" Because he knows that there's more to it than just
Why'd
her
she let
wanting to.
Joey get to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why did you let Joey get to you? Why did you do the thing? And you know, she like tells him the truth, which is funny because she does this often. She does tell the truth often, but
Mhm.
because of, again, her how people perceive her, they don't like take her for it. Like when she says
She
like, "Yeah, don't like this," or like, "I don't want to do this," or blah blah blah. Like when she says like, "Yeah, I hate Joey," that's like she hates Joey. She's not
Yeah.
joking. He doesn't want to go to the thing where people are just going to be filling up other people and listening to bad music. That's exactly what it's going to be, and I don't want to do that. People think she's just being rude, but she's like, "No, like I don't want to do that. Like that's not how I would that's not enjoyable for me." Like maybe if it was something else. But it is one of those things where she's like she's assuming she's right in times she's
Mhm.
not.
Well,
But
it's it
yeah, so she's honest with him too in this moment.
well, it's good too because, like, you know how men are always just like, "Oh, women just need to tell us what they want." Like, she's literally telling everybody what she wants,
Literally all the time.
and Patrick all the time, and Patrick is the only one who listens to her,
Yeah.
and it's just like, "Hey, you're actually telling me exactly what you want. Cool."
I always hate when I like this is like I always related with Kat maybe too much because I was like, I feel like this is she's just literally me. Like in
Mm.
every stage of life, I feel like I'm Kat. Like I'm always telling people like, I want this, I don't like that, I don't like how this works like this, and it bothers me, and I wish that there was some way to change it, or like something like even like people don't often like like my facial expressions can be fairly like I don't want to say non-expressive, but like when I'm excited, it's not like something that you can like physically see all the time. So like I
Mhm.
often will have to tell people like, "Oh, I'm so excited for this," or like, "I
Mhm.
actually really like that. I love this," because they just assume that I'm gonna be that I don't. Like they just assume that because I'm not like even when I'm saying like I love this, no, that's great. This is wonderful. Like they just think I'm joking, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. Or like even when I'm saying that like I don't like this. This is dumb. Or
Mhm.
like I disagree with this. I think this is really not well done or put together or organized or something like that.
Mhm.
Like I'm completely honest. That is exactly how I feel.
You're very candid.
And they're just kind of like, what a funny joke. And I'm like, I'm not joking. This is a legitimate problem and it needs to be fixed.
Mhm.
Where that was a joke, I don't get it. So yeah, I think that that's definitely also one of the reasons I like this movie is because I very much feel seen. It's the eldest daughter. You know what? Maybe that's what I'll do. When we release this episode, I'll post all of my eldest daughter memes.
I'm not
um,
the eldest daughter, but second of 5,
if
so
there's
I'm
enough of
sure.
a Yeah, if there's enough of a gap between you and like the youngest, I feel like you can 100% claim eldest daughter. Yeah, I'm holding a lighter. I don't know why. I just found it.
Channeling
Yeah,
your inner Patrick.
I know. I'm just. So yeah, so he asks her like, "Why'd you let him get to you?" She tells him like, "I really hate Joey. He's the worst." And you know, he specifically like, she doesn't tell him the backstory, but she does tell him enough for him to know that, like, there's more to it than them just hating each other, like, he has done something. And, like, they have a sweet moment where he's like, "Oh, yes," and drinking an entire ton of tequila
Mainlining
is
tequila, yeah.
and she goes, "I thought so too," which is funny because she's drunk.
Mhm.
She falls asleep because she has a concussion, and he, like, wakes her up, and she opens her eyes and is like, "Oh my god, like, you actually have." She notices something about him that most people don't notice, which is the color of his eyes. Yes, cliché, but
Cute.
for them, yeah, like, it's cute because, like, no one's ever really that close to him physically, literally, to see that.
Except probably
So, like,
his punk friend.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen them that close together.
They were that close together in science class.
Not face to face.
Basically.
No. He's on the ooh, I just broke my desk.
Oh, I figured you just knocked a knick-knack off.
No, that was, like, the bar.
Oh, wow. Serena. Getting
I guess we
heated.
have to have bloopers for this episode. Because he's, like, sitting sideways on the edge of the,
Uh-huh.
like, table,
Yeah.
and then Patrick's sitting on this side, but he's playing with the fire in the middle of the table, and the friend's on the end of the table, and he's in between the end and the fire.
Hold on. I think I missed something there, but they're sitting right next to each other. It's just the corner of the table that's in between them. But when they talk to each other, they gotta face each other.
Yeah, but they're not that close.
They're pretty
He's
close.
not holding his face.
Well, no, but it's also not like a
He's like,
giant
"Look at me,
table.
cat, look at me."
I mean, it is,
Regardless,
yeah, regardless, it is a
to
cute
point
moment.
out
Yeah.
something at being that close to a
No,
person that
we're
is
just being
also feared
pedantic.
physically.
Mhm.
To a person that is also feared is for him kind of like he's honestly like a little bit taken aback because he's kind of forgotten like, oh, I forgot that like I am perceivable.
Mhm.
People can actually like see me and interact with me and not just like me, but like me, like actually me, not just like the persona that I put in front of, or not even that I've put up, but that other people have projected onto me that I've just maintained out of not bothering to do anything about it.
Mhm.
And so it's one of those moments where it's like totally a win for Kat because she's admitting that she like sees him too. Um, and then she throws up, which is another win for Patrick. So they're still even, 3 for 3. Um, but then, they go home and they're in the car.
So you're kind of skipping a scene.
I am.
So Joey finds Bianca and Chastity and's like, "Hey, let's go. There's going to be like an after party." And Bianca at this point is just fully disillusioned with Joey. She's just like, "This guy's an
She's like,
idiot." Yeah. Um and so
she
she
is
she's
actively trying to get out of it.
yeah, so she's just like, "All right, it's time to cut my losses here." And
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh, nope, can't go. I got to be home in 20 minutes." And Chastity
Darn.
jumps on it. She's just like, "I don't have to be
I don't
home
have to be
until
home till
2
2,
a.m." Yeah, and
which
it's
is
just like,
a ridiculous curfew for a
mhm,
sophomore in high school. Girl is
mhm,
15, maybe 16.
yeah,
Like, what? My parents literally would have called the cops.
oh yeah, same.
But yeah, so she
Um,
jumps. She's like, "Well, you passed. I'm gonna take it.
mhm.
Bye." So now Bianca literally has nowhere to go.
And then she sees Cameron, who has just the saddest puppy dog look on his face because he just had his heart broken. And now he's at a party where he doesn't know anyone because he's still like the new kid.
Mhm.
Um, and is just having a miserable time like wandering around by himself. And then
Like, I don't
the
even know
like
where Michael is.
yeah, Michael's just gone. But the crowd parts and they just Bianca and Cameron like meet eyes and Cameron's like, "Oh, not this again." And he tries to leave, but Bianca's like, "No, wait, can you drive me home?" And
She's
Karen
so
being
sad too.
yeah.
She's like, I am a pitiful person that has done a thing and I know it, but I also very much need your help right now, and you're the only person who might actually help me.
Mhm. And Cameron being the upstanding guy that he is, um, does give her a ride home. And
Mhm.
when they pull up in front of their house, in front of her house, um, Cameron calls her out. Like
He does,
he
yeah.
reads her the riot act. It's just kind of like, I did all this hard work. You manipulated me. You knew you were manipulating me. Like that's not cool. I really liked you. You're such a pretty you're a pretty girl and I defended you. Like people said that you were shallow and I defended you. And at this point,
Yeah.
she knows exactly what she did. She knows what she did was wrong, and
Mhm.
now she's seeing the consequences of her actions. And
He
she
even tells her,
feels,
he's like, "Have you
yeah.
always been this selfish?"
Oh,
To which
yeah.
in this moment she's like, "Yeah, like
She takes accountability
ever.
for everything. Yeah.
You're completely right."
Mhm. But then, like, with the previous scene, how Patrick is now feeling seen. Um, Bianca is now feeling seen.
Bianca.
Like, yeah, she's
Yeah.
just kind of like I knew all these things about me, but now someone else sees all those things about me. And even though they're mad, like they still care enough about me that they're not going to leave me somewhere stranded. Like they care enough about
Yeah.
me that they want to see me safe still, despite knowing all of these bad things about me, despite knowing all the bad things that I've done to them.
Mhm.
Um,
And to
and so,
even see those things
mhm,
about her
mhm,
is like in the context of Bianca and the people around her radical, because everyone has her on this pedestal and
mhm,
everyone is like, "Oh, Bianca, gorgeous, beautiful, sweet Bianca." Like nobody listens to her. Nobody pays attention to what she's doing. She's just going through life. So
mhm,
to have been a manipulative person and to have done the bad thing, but then to also have been called out on the bad thing is like even more so like shocking
shocking. Yeah.
to be found like, oh, someone's actually paying attention to what I'm doing and how I'm like how I'm treating people and reacting to people. Like it's not just about them in this
Mhm,
way. Like there is actually someone who sees me, and that's crazy.
mhm.
And she kisses him.
Yeah. And now he's happy because he's back in the game.
Back in the game. Tiny baby Joseph Gordon-Levitt voice crack.
Mhm.
We love. Um, which then kind of parallels the scene because technically this happens after Kat and Patrick are in their car because Kat and Patrick drive off, or Patrick drives off in his car. Um, and they end
That's
up pulling
right.
in as they're pulling out. But
Uh-huh.
Kat and Patrick are in the car and, they're kind of talking about just things like Kat's talking about like the radio and the music that's playing, and she's like, I should start a band. I should totally do that. And he's like, oh, like, why? Not that is bad. Like, I don't think he actually says that. He doesn't say anything. He's just like, she says, I should do that. And he says, do what? She goes, install car stereos. No, I should start a band. And he goes, oh. And then she says, my dad would love that. And he goes, do you not like your dad? Like, is he like, what's up with your dad? Like, what makes him such that you would say that about him?
Mhm.
And she's like, well, it's not that he's bad or anything. It's just he wants me to be someone that I'm not. He wants me to be Bianca. And he says, like, no offense to your sister. Like, everyone loves her, but no offense. Like, she's without. Like, she isn't you. you're
Mhm.
you and I like you. Um, to which she's like, you're not as vile as I thought you were. And
Such
they
a
kind of like
wonderful
want to,
compliment.
you're not as vile as I thought you were. What every man wants to hear.
Mhm. Valentine's Day puts that on the card.
We will be making 10 things I hate about you Valentines. That is 100% a thing we're doing. So yeah, she says that, and then they have like a quiet moment. She goes in for a kiss, and he does not kiss her back. So this is kind of one of those moments where, like he said, I like you. And she was like, all right, I'll accept that. Like, we like each other, which kind of puts them at 4 each.
Mm.
She goes in for a kiss, but it is rejected. But he has his reasons, which he explains later.
Mhm.
Because I remember we watched this and Whitney literally asked, like, wait, so did he not kiss her because of the fact that she was really drunk? And then comes the very next scene, which is Cameron telling him about how Bianca kissed him and how the night went. And Patrick's like, yeah, she tried to kiss me. And they're like, and you didn't? Why? And he's like, well, it's not like she was going to remember anything. I would rather like be kissing a person that would remember it. Um,
So
and
once
like,
again, the consent.
yeah, once again, the whole consent
And
thing.
for a
Uh,
1999 movie too.
yeah, like it shouldn't be significant, but unfortunately it is.
Mhm.
I almost hate
Proof that it
sometimes
was
when
written by
people
a
talk
woman.
about, honestly, but like I hate sometimes when people talk about movies and they're like, oh yeah, well this is like pre Me Too. It's like, dude, Me Too didn't happen till like 2015.
Lots of stuff was me before Me Too. Everything was before Me Too.
Yeah, it's like in that context. How many years do we even have since that? 10? Not even. Maybe less than that.
Mm. Mhm.
8. We haven't even been a decade past Me Too. And yet Me Too is this like benchmark. And we're like, I don't know. That's just kind of upsetting to think about.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna go back to 10 things I hate about you. um, so yeah, he doesn't kiss her back. She's upset. But as we see in their interactions after this, like she's upset, but it's more of an a I opened myself up to you and it seemed like we were doing it together and like you've been kind of like approaching me, so like I thought that this is what you wanted. She thinks that she's giving him what he wanted by like going in for the kiss, like giving him what he wanted, when in reality he rejects it because he's like, no, I actually like you and I
Mhm.
want to have like a connection with you. I'm not in it for like the physicality. um to which is fine, but so far in her life with the men that she's been with, that has not been the case. So in thinking that he wants the physicality and in offering her physically, her like physical body to him at that moment and being shut down is like embarrassing and like one of those like, oh, I was very wrong. It's like
Mhm.
a little bit more like hurtful because when you think that that's what people want from you and you offer it and it ends up being not what they want at all, it like hurts a lot. And so
Yeah. Well, it
um
was a very
this is
vulnerable
kind of
vulnerable moment for her.
exactly, especially to
It's
offer herself physically once you find out later what
mhm.
happened between her and Joey.
Mhm.
And so this is kind of what Cameron and Michael are kind of telling him when he's trying to figure out, like, yeah, she's like really mad at me. She does not want to talk to me. She does not want to see me. Like, and like even Michael and Cameron have tried to like, talk to her friends, see how she feels about Patrick, like to see if they can maybe remedy the situation. And they're like, Patrick, she offered herself to you and you said no. That hurts. You've got to you've got to do something. Like you have to let her know that that's not what it was. That it
Mhm.
isn't that you don't want it. It's that, like you want more than that. Not more than that, but
Mhm.
like it's not a physical thing, it's a meaningful thing in a sense. Um I think they say you have to even the score, which is why I have been keeping score.
Sorry, I'm actually trying to
Because
pull that
for
quote up
Cat,
right now.
he is ahead technically in the scoreboard
Okay.
at this moment in Cat's mind because he rejected her. Which is why when the next scene happens, he willingly gives her a point back, and they are once again even.
I can't pull up the quote, but yeah, the next scene is this is my all-time number one favorite movie. And almost half of that reason is specifically for this next scene. This, in my opinion, is the greatest movie scene of all time. And it's just because like it's cheesy, very lighthearted, very funny, romantic scene. Um, Especially like when you know the struggle that's been going on between the two of these two characters the whole time. And you know
Mhm.
that while it started off with bad intentions, it has now become like between the two of them specifically, it has turned good. Like they both are
Yeah,
catching feelings for each other.
and they have a lot of
Um
respect for each other.
yeah, and it's not even like they're catching feelings for each other because, they each think the other person's hot. It's because they do genuinely connect with each other and respect each other.
Hmm. And what I love about what he does, because he literally like he puts in so much effort to pull this off. It's kind of
Mhm.
crazy.
And so we do see him paying someone off to do it. One of the band guys to chime
Hmm.
in to help. And
With Joey's
my
money.
yeah, well, see, that's what I'm thinking. Like that's what I would, that's my fan theory is that he's using all the money he's gathered up until that point from Joey to make this
This
apology.
happened.
Yeah.
No, I 100% believe that's what we're supposed to take from this.
Okay. Good.
Because he does it again later, which is why I think that he also does it here. Because he does it, that's how he purchases the base at the
Oh, right,
end.
right, right, right. Yeah. Mhm.
Like essentially, yes, he's been getting all of these things in order to go out with her, but because he genuinely likes her, he's just quite literally giving it back to her.
Mhm. It's not the money he's made, it's the money she's made.
Yeah, it's like transactionally, if you're talking in transactions or
Mhm.
like the scoreboard, everything he makes, he shares with her.
Mhm. What's mine is yours.
Fuck this movie, man. So good. Um, yeah. So he does all of this. I think she even in the middle, but before this actually is the conversation I was talking about with the teacher when they're all making fun of her for the table dance and getting super drunk and being drunk and acting like that. Um, and then her saying "Oh yeah, do you want us to do the poem?" They get the assignment for the poem to do essentially what ends up being the 10 things I hate about you poem, is to write their own version of the sonnet from Shakespeare. And she asked the teacher if he wants it in iambic pentameter instead of fighting him on it or arguing or anything. And he's like, honestly, what? Why aren't you fighting me on this? This is crazy. Which, in my analysis of the scene, is that in this moment, she's taken a loss from everyone. Like everyone has seen
Mhm.
her do this thing and embarrass herself. And in this moment, she's kind of just literally wanting someone. to see her and
Mhm.
like to understand that she is like an actual person. And it's one of those like cry for help moments where she's like, "Do you want an iambic pentameter?" And like everyone knows that something's off because she doesn't act like that, but nobody bothers to see like why that might be. And instead of engaging and maybe, trying to figure out what's wrong, they just send her away and dismiss it. Um,
Yeah.
which is an exact contrast to literally after the party when Patrick's like, "So why did you do this? Like, there's something more
Mm.
to it. Like, you don't like that normally. So why now? What was it that like made you make this decision?" Um, so yeah, she gets sent away to the principal's office, and honestly, it's kind of heartbreaking. Um, so yeah, now we see that Patrick is, gonna do this great. He's got a plan. We don't know what it is yet. Here we go again with the plan. Oh my goodness. Anyway, um, what's funny? Oh my god, I'm skipping ahead of myself. I'm skipping so much
No,
ahead. I'm so sorry. I'm so
I
excited for the scene.
oh, is it the bookstore scene?
Yeah. I keep
Okay,
thinking
sorry.
I'm like ready for the singing scene, but we haven't even gotten to the
I know, well,
detention
because
part
the
yet.
singing scene is the
Jeez,
best scene.
it's so good. Yeah, because literally, like, Patrick is not getting any recognition from Kat, like, at all. Like, Joey is like, all right, well, Bianca, we're going to the prom. Doesn't ask. He says we're going to
Mhm.
the prom. Doesn't even let Bianca answer, which I just think is great because later on it completely pays off.
Mhm.
So he's like, Bianca, we're going to the prom. He goes to Patrick and is like, Patrick, I'm taking Bianca to prom, so you have to take Kat. And he's like, dude, she literally won't talk to me. And he's like, well, then figure it out, man, because I'm going to the prom. I'm going to have sex with this girl because I have a bet going with my friends. Dick.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, he's like, okay, apparently I have to figure out how to be in Kat's good graces again. And, Michael and Cameron are like, you gotta even the playing field, my guy. Be vulnerable
I've
to
got
what
this right
people think.
here because it's another good quote. Sacrifice yourself on the altar of dignity and even the score.
Which I'm not convinced. Like, I haven't read Taming of the Shrew,
Mhm.
but that feels like not like a direct quote, but maybe like a direct translation from Shakespeare. Like, that's just like, why does it feel like such a good line?
Well, because like right beforehand, you've got Michael saying, "Sweet love, renew thy force," and then Patrick's like, "Hey, don't say shit like that to me in public.
Don't
People
say
can hear
shit
you."
like that to me in public.
And then right after that, Cameron says, "Sacrifice yourself on the altar of dignity, even the score." And
Yeah.
Michael
And they
was
only get
quoting,
to
yeah.
have they only get to have this conversation too because Patrick has after finding out that like Joey wants him to take Kat out, he did try to approach Kat in the bookstore, um, in which he sees her and approaches her. Well, he sees her at the music store, and then is like, he's honestly kind of like puppy dog eyes, which is adorable. But then she goes to the
Mhm.
bookstore. He's like, okay, maybe I can like talk to her here. He approaches her and is like, hey, can you find me the copy of the Feminine Mystique? I seem to have misplaced my. And she's like, why are you here? Leave me alone. Um, which is hilarious. They have a great back and forth about, he says, can you help me find the Feminine Mystique? I've misplaced my copy. And she goes, what are you doing here? And he goes, oh, I just like need a book. And he's like, obviously, somebody still has her panties in a twist. And she goes, don't you think whatsoever that you had any effect on my panties. And he goes, what did I have an effect on? And she goes, other than my upcheck reflex, nothing. Um, he says, you're not as badass as you think you are, or you're not as mean as you think you are. And she goes, well, you're not as badass as you think you are, and then hands him a copy of The Feminine Mystique, which is an example, again, of yes, she is saying, like, no, I don't want to talk to you, blah, 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 but she is succeeding a part of herself to him at that moment by giving him the copy of The
Mhm.
Feminine Mystique, because she did not have to do that. If it was Joey, she would have walked out of the bookstore. But
Yeah,
because
she
he
would have
actually
just
does
insulted him and walked out.
and like cares about their back and forth and the fact that like they do know each other pretty well, she also knows that he'll understand what this means by her giving him this book and actually taking the effort to go and get it and like give it to him. Where if she really did hate him, like she has stated she truly hates Joey, she would not have given him the time of day to even get that far. So
Mhm.
this is kind of why he approaches Michael and Karen, because he's like, okay, I know that there is something that I can do to make it up, and I need help to do it.
And then that's when he pays off the band guy. And we get the greatest scene of all time. Finally.
So cute. So he
And it's
decides
so cute.
that
So basically it starts off with mhm.
oh.
Go ahead.
So he decides that the best way to alter himself, offer himself on the altar of dignity and even the score, is to basically go and do everything against the reputation that he has tried so hard to maintain.
Well, so he evens the score by doing what she did, dancing in public.
Hmm. And it's gorgeous. Yeah. So he like not only does he have the reputation of just being this like horrible guy who would never have feelings for anybody and is like, just super stoic and has all these crazy like he killed a guy once and he ate a whole duck. Like he's so
Went to
weird. He's
prison, had a
horrible.
porn career.
Like all of these crazy things, and he does the same thing that she did by dancing crazy in public. But not only that, he sings too. So he
Mhm.
kind of one ups her on that one.
Yeah, he does.
Except he actually sounds fairly like good. Like he's not a bad singer.
Mhm.
But yeah,
But
so he
it's a
goes and does this
mhm.
elaborate plan to where he gets like he's like, okay, well, the band is gonna have band practice at the
The
same time
marching
that she
band,
has,
yeah.
yes, the marching band. So like I can give them like I'm gonna pay them with Joey's money, and when I cue them, they're gonna play a song for me, and then I'm gonna come in because I've also paid off some of the AV guys because Michael Cameron they're AV guys. Um,
Mhm.
because of some of the AV guys, I'm gonna grab a microphone that is hooked up to all of the speakers and sing about my love for Cat for everyone to hear, and then I will go and dance on the bleachers while being chased by security guards, and it will be a great time. And then
I
he
like
gets
how
detention.
yeah, I like how they make the school security guards look like actual cops. And then when they do finally catch him, it's really subtle, but they do have like a handcuff clink in there,
Yeah,
but he doesn't get cuffed. They just throw that in there kind of like as like a subtle like trick to show like oh
yeah,
he is caught.
yeah.
And then it just smash cuts to him in detention.
Yeah, in detention with the soccer coach, um,
Mhm.
cat soccer coach,
Gym
which
teacher,
is where
soccer
we get
coach, yeah.
into the plan. Um, the plan being the plan that is made up on the spot.
To get Patrick out of
Um,
detention.
of Kat trying to get Patrick out of detention, yeah. Which is just amazing because she tries to get him out of detention. She has literally no idea what she's doing. She just walks up to her coach and is like, "Ah, yes, coach, I wanted to talk to you." And the only thing she can think of is to flirt with him.
No, flirt? Oh, yeah, because she
Yeah,
knows
she goes,
she's
"Oh
like,
my
"Oh, your
god, your
bicep."
bicep is huge. Oh my god, this one's even bigger."
You don't use
And
steroids, do
she's like,
you? Because I
"Oh
heard
no,
that makes
no,
your,
they can
yeah.
disintegrate your package." Not that I'm thinking about your package, you know?
Yeah,
And
and
she
then
goes,
while
"I had
she's
a thought about how we could win this game." And he's like,
mhm.
"Oh, well, what is it?" He goes, "Misdirection," which is literally what she's doing in the moment and hilarious. He's trying to get out the window. He almost looks. She goes, "Yes, so while they're looking this way, we go that way." And he goes, "Yes, but how do we get them to look that way?" And she goes, "Like this," and flashes the teacher.
And
And then
he
is like,
appreciates, which is weird and icky.
yeah, he says like,
Even for
"Uh,"
1999, like, it's a little too much.
yeah, yeah, it's like he looks, and even though he says, "This isn't appropriate," he, like, hesitates.
Mhm.
And so now she's like, "Alright, now that you've seen the plan, I'm gonna go somewhere else and show someone else the plan." And she leaves. Um, and then we get to see her and Patrick on a cute date where they go, is it called, no, not paddleboarding.
Um,
Pedal
pedal
boating?
pedal boating, yeah.
Is that actually what it's called?
That's what I call it.
Paddle boating? I don't know.
Pedal. Are you saying
It's the
paddle
thing
or
where they're
pedal?
like, I don't know.
It's pedal. Like a
If
bike
it's saying
pedal?
both. Yeah,
Okay.
because there's pedals, but they have paddles at the end of them.
Oh, that's true. I call it pedal boat.
I honestly have no idea which one it is. Um, so yeah, they go on that boat that has the bike pedals with the pedals at the end of it so that they can move. And then they play paintball, and they're super cute, and it upsets me because they're adorable.
Mhm.
And this whole time,
I
they're talking about, like, the perceptions that, like, everyone else has about them and, like, the rumors that are going around are like, "Okay, so, like, what is truly you, like, out of these? Like, are any of these things true? And if not, like, tell me something about you that is true," which is a great date. Like, it's like a genuine date.
Mhm.
And going on this date, and he's not being paid by Joey for this one.
Mhm. I've never, wanted to go on a date as much as I wanted to go on that paintball one. It looked so absolutely mind-blowingly fun.
Dude, yeah. If and, like, it's not even that it's, like, paintball, it's like they have water balloons, so, like, it doesn't hurt as
Yeah.
much as actually getting hit with, like, a
Yeah,
paintball.
that's true. Paintballs hurt. They
Like, I
leave
wanna do that.
welts.
They
Yeah.
really do. That's the only reason I don't go paintballing. But, like, paint
Mhm.
balloon, that that looks fun. I wanna do that.
Mhm.
Anyway, I also this is another very weird thing of a person who watches far too many movies, but it probably also because I'm, like, an ace person that has to, like, I don't just, like, understand why other people want to kiss other people, like, that's just, like, not
Mm.
a me thing. So, like, when people kiss in movies, I'm always like, "How are they kissing? Like, what?" Like, I'm looking at how they're physically kissing each other. And I will have to say, because of that, all of the kisses in this movie are actually very good kisses.
Yeah.
Like they're just objectively, like, good good kisses. Like, they're not, like, really, like, like,
Some
is it
movies do have
Spider-Man?
really awkward kisses.
I think
Oh,
it's
is it the upside
Spider-Man.
down one? That's an awkward
No, it was
kiss.
the Andrew Garfield one. He's, like, always so slobbery.
Ew, yeah.
Like, every time he like pulls away, there's just like a line of spit, and,
Uh, uh-huh.
and it bothers me a lot. But the kisses in this one actually look genuinely enjoyable. Like they all
Mhm.
look like they're actually kisses. Um, and like it isn't like one person being like, "Ah, yes, my mouth is open." Like, cause they do that too, or like one person's like, or like the one where they just
It
kind of go like,
like they eating their face, yeah.
or like their lips just touch, and then they just hold
Mhm.
it there. I wish those of you that weren't watching this saw what I just did with my
The
hands.
hand movements, yeah.
I illustrate the kiss. I'll probably put that on TikTok so that you can see that because that was crazy.
If if you guys donate and become a Patreon, you would be able to see this.
Yeah, you would. And it doesn't even cost that much. Literally, it's like $1.99. It's not even a cup of coffee. It's a fourth of a cup of coffee. Um, yeah, so they kiss very cutely, and then they kind of go back to Cat's place. They're hanging out in the front, and they're having like the cute little moment of like, tell me about this, tell me about that. Like they even say well, this is actually while they're in the boat, but he asks her, "What's your excuse for acting the way we do?" And she says, "I don't like to do what they expect." And so it's an important thing because as they're sitting here on the porch now, talking about expectations and all of that kind of stuff, um, he says like, "Go to prom with me," and she's like, "Is that a request or a demand?" And like it's kind of joking, but then she kind of pushes it because he just says like go to prom with me, and then he uses what she said earlier about not doing what people expect to try and convince her to go, which immediately tunes her into the fact that like why are you being like this? Why
Yeah,
are you
some red
pushing?
flags.
Like you should understand. Like we literally just went through all of that, and now you're trying to tell me that I should do something because it's something that other people wouldn't expect for me to do, but I've already said that I do not want to do. Like now you're
Mhm.
just not. Um, and so yeah, she's like, I what? This is ridiculous. Like I'm not for this. Um, storms off. He goes away. So he's back in the doghouse again. But while this is happening,
He's on
because
the couch, not the doghouse.
okay, yeah, I guess technically he's inside. If the house is the metaphor here.
Yeah.
um, but while she has, stated now and definitely turned Patrick down on his request to go on a date, um, that has solidified that Bianca cannot go to prom, and Bianca really wants to go to prom. Um, we also, at this moment, no one else knows that Bianca wants to go to prom with Cameron, not with Joey. And so, thinking that she's still going with Joey, they have a conversation of like, I'm not going to prom, and I know you really want to, but Joey's not a good guy. And now they have the conversation where Kat reveals like Joey and Kat dated, and the experience was that Joey pushed Kat to do something that she didn't want to do before she was ready. And it was in a time of like emotional need because her mom had just left. And because of that, she just did it because she thought that's what she was supposed to do. And so, because everyone was doing it, it'll make you feel better, yada, yada. And that was the moment when she was like, I'm not going to just do something because everyone else is doing it, or that's what like I'm supposed to do. And so she's trying to use this as a way to tell Bianca, like, I know you want to go to prom, and I know that like everyone else is going to prom, but you don't have to do it just because everyone else is doing it. And this is one of those situations where she's saying this to Bianca, but Bianca is not looking for the same thing. Like they're not giving Bianca the benefit of getting to make her own decision about herself and how she goes about her stuff, which is kind of hypocritical of Kat, who is mad
Mhm.
at their dad for doing the exact same thing to her. So Bianca brings this up and she's like, so you want to protect me by letting me experience nothing. And she's like, not all experiences are good, Bianca. And Bianca's like, how would I know? Because
Yeah.
neither you let me do that. So, like, if you're not going to go, don't go. But don't try to make it out like it's for me because we all know it's for you. Which kind of clues Kat into, oh crap, you're right. I have been doing all of this because of me, not because of Bianca. Bianca can make her own decisions. I want to make my own decisions. I owe it to Bianca to at least have that. And so since their dad won't do it, she is like, okay, I'll go to prom with Patrick. I'll make things up with him and Bianca can go to prom like she really wants to. And it turns out that she's going with Cameron and not Joey because they dress up and they, they dress up Chastity and Bianca and they're walking out the house and the dad's like, and where are you going?
Kat and Bianca. Chastity doesn't come until
Oh,
later. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm actually completely wrong because what actually happens is Kat comes down the stairs, walks out the door, and goes, I'm going to prom, bye.
Mhm.
And then Bianca comes down the stairs and opens the door because Cameron is there. And he's like, what is he doing here? And she's like, nope, we're going, bye. And he's like, nope, stop, turn around, explain. And he's like, okay, Dad, we're going to the prom. The prom. I seem to be hearing that word a lot lately. Is your sister going to the prom? Yeah, she actually found this guy that's kind of perfect for her. And I wanted to go to Cameron and he asked me to go with him. So, since Kat can go, like, I'm going to go with Cameron. To which is a surprise to everyone at this point, the audience and the father, because Dad's like, oh, so not Joey, which is a little bit better because, like, okay, well, at least Cameron's like, you know, not
Respectable.
Joey. He like came to pick her up. He was gonna introduce himself if she hadn't stopped him.
Mhm.
But yeah, so he's like, interesting. Both of my daughters are going to the prom. Okay. Um, yeah, so they go to the prom. Patrick and Kat meet up there, and she apologizes for assuming the worst, which is one of those things where it's like it sucks that like yeah she shouldn't have assumed the worst, but also
But
like
she was right.
technically this is what happened. um, yeah, it's one of those like your intention did not match up with what actually happened there.
Mhm.
So yeah. Um, so then as soon as literally as soon as that happens, we go back to the house. Uh, Joey knocks on Bianca's door and is like, "Hey, I'm here for Bianca," and the dad's like, "Funny," and like slams the door in his face, which is great. So then that pisses off Joey because he's like, literally, what the frick? Um, we
I
get to see
just
Keith
paid for
David.
all this stuff to happen, and why is it not happening?
Yeah, being ripped off in a beautiful way. So like yeah, everyone else is at the prom having fun. Um, Joey goes and gets Chastity, which we find out later because Bianca goes to the restroom. And she sees Chastity and she goes, "Hey, like, what are you doing here? I didn't know you were coming to the prom because both of them are sophomores." And she thought she was the only sophomore there. To which Chastity goes, "I know you thought you were the only sophomore to get asked to the prom." Actually, she says, "I know you didn't think you were the only soft type
Yeah.
to get ass." Um, and then she says, "Joey only asked you because he was gonna nail you tonight. He had a bet going with his friends."
Like, how dare you, like, just stand by and let your best friend be taken advantage of like that?
Yeah, like what? And like,
And she
how
like, my
long did
problem.
she know this?
Yeah, my so the
Like, why would you want to go out with that guy if that was his entire point of going out with her? And you're
Mhm.
supposed to be her quote unquote replacement?
Mhm. Yeah, my
That
I guess my one big critique about this film is, like, I just don't understand chastity. Um, like, she is supposedly this great friend to Bianca pretty much up until this point, and she just, like, completely turns on her out of nowhere and is just, like, a really mean person.
Well, I wouldn't say it's out of nowhere because you do see her do it with Joey a few
Well, at the
times.
party.
Like at the
Yeah, that's
party,
fair.
like even in the car, she's like, "Oh, Joey, like we should totally take this ride." And then Bianca's like, "I mean, okay." Like Bianca goes along with it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, okay, so maybe not, like, the stealing Joey part, but just, like, the fact that she seems to just hate Bianca.
she's almost like the quote unquote like pick me girl, which I hate to say,
Yeah.
of the film,
Yeah, she
which
is,
is sad.
definitely.
Hmm. But it is kind of like that friendship of like, we're not really friends. I'm just using you for your social status.
Yeah.
And like that kind of like Mean Girls, Heather's esque
Mhm.
relationship. But yeah, so now Bianca's pissed and she's fighting this out while Joey comes running in, running into the place and is like, does he confront? He confronts Patrick
Yeah, let
because
me go to the
he doesn't
scene.
even know that Cameron is there. So he like comes in and he goes, "What the heck, Verona? I thought we had a deal." Blah 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 blah. And then
Uh-huh.
that kind of like because he's yelling at Patrick alerts Michael and Cameron to, oh,
Mhm.
something's happening. Cameron goes to like intervene and he hits Cameron.
Yeah. Well, no,
And
no,
then
no, so
Bianca,
yeah, so he says, "What the heck? This isn't what I paid you for." Cat finds out,
oh yeah,
runs
he says
off. Patrick
paid.
Yeah, Patrick chases after Cat because now Cat knows that Joey was paying Patrick to take her out.
The
And
one
then
person she truly hates.
yeah, and then once the Patrick and Cat run out, that's when Cameron tries to confront Joey.
Yeah.
Because he protects all. Well, he won't let anything bad happen to any woman. Won't even let people say bad things about women. And considering Kat is his girlfriend's sister, he's got to, you know, try to stand up for her.
He doesn't have to do anything, but he does.
That's true. Yeah. This is why
Which
we
is
stand
great.
Cameron.
And like he already knows that there's absolutely no chance he can actually do it,
Mhm.
which makes it even like more noble.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not
He's
trying to
just
do it
like,
like
yeah,
out of
he can't do that. Like he doesn't think about it as like a, oh, I'm gonna go and like beat this guy up. He's just like, hey,
uh-huh.
somebody's gonna stand up for her, and it will be me because you can't just do that, my guy. And
Mhm.
he's like, what are you gonna do about it? And he goes, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Yeah, he gets punched in the face, and then Bianca comes running in, which is wonderful because she goes, hey, Joey, and then she punches him in the face. She
Mhm.
goes, this is for my sister. And then she punches him again. This is for my date. And then she knees him in the balls and goes, and this is for me. And he goes, what the hell, Bianca? I'm shooting a nose spray out tomorrow.
Mm.
And then, yeah, he
Well, and
gets to
it's
go.
great. Yeah, it's great because um you have Cameron kind of like coming in as the white knight, right? Who's
Mhm.
gonna theoretically kind of save the damsel in distress, but then
Yeah.
he quickly gets his ass handed to him, and then you've got another damsel theoretically in distress sweeping in and rescuing him, the white knight.
Mhm. A
So
complete role reversal.
yeah.
And it's great. So yeah, so that happens. And then you get Kat and Patrick. And like they don't really resolve this here. They have the my intention was never like Patrick is saying, my intention was never to hurt you. I do like you. Like you don't have the whole story here. Please hear me out. And Kat's like, I can't believe you took money from the one person that I literally hate. And like I hate him. Because I said I hated you and
Hmm.
I act like that to him and you should know better. um especially after she just apologized to him for misreading a situation and then finding out that it was completely that situation. Even if there is more to it, at face level, that's what
Hmm.
it is.
Her gut reaction was valid.
Yeah. So, like, not only
And
is
it
it
kind of like
like,
confirms like her worst fears of like what the world really is. And
mm-hmm,
like, oh, it's just confirmation of like, this is why I shouldn't let my walls down, this is why I shouldn't let people in, like the world really is a shitty place.
yeah. And on top of that, it's also the I had these doubts and I expressed them, and you made me feel like they weren't real.
Mhm.
And so,
Mhm.
not only
Gaslight.
miss me, but yeah, now I also feel like I can't trust myself because I
Mhm.
was right. um,
Mhm.
so yeah, um, she they have this conversation and they kind of just leave it there, like in the open. Like they're both they both kind of accept the other person for like their explanation, but that's that. Like they're kind of not gonna, neither one of them's gonna be like, what we both did was wrong.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there's more to it than that, and I should also be sensitive to that because I should know better than to just assume, like, both of them should have known better than to assume things about the other person and
Mhm.
to understand probably a lot more to whatever it is that they're mad about and should be willing to listen to that.
Yeah.
Um, which then, of course, comes the final thing of the show or the movie, which is,
Well, also, hold on real quick, right before we end the prom scene, as they're arguing, Patrick does say, like, "I do really care about you," and then he kisses her, and, like, it is
oh,
a
yeah.
forced kiss. And Kat fights back and pushes him away and then runs off. But at
Yeah.
that point, Patrick realizes, oh, consent has been taken back. I no longer have her consent. Not that he should have done that in the first place, because, like, obviously it is very wrong, but he doesn't chase after her. He lets her go and gives her the,
Yeah.
the space that she rightly needs in that moment.
Hmm. It's almost like the exact opposite of the car.
Yeah.
Intentions wise.
Yeah.
Like one of those like no.
Hmm.
um so yeah, that happens and then you know they don't really kind of have well we know that Patrick has that immediately because we can see it on his face in that scene, but we don't kind of get the cat having understood like I'm also wrong for like not only having assumed the worst but also assuming that his intentions were not good because he has given me nothing like to think that about him. So, like,
Mhm.
now I'm the critical. When she's talking to her dad and Bianca is going on a date with Cameron, the dad's like, "Hey, um, how was the prom? I heard it was like poppin', you guys had so much fun." Trying to relate. And he
Uh-huh.
goes, and she's,
'Cause he's
I
a
mean, it
good
probably,
dad who pays attention to his kids.
mhm. And she's like, well, it probably wasn't poppin' like you're thinking, but Bianca did beat up some dudes, so that was a highlight. And he's like, what? And she's like, I know, you don't want me to rub off on her. And he's like, no, I'm impressed.
Mhm.
I'm kind of glad you rubbed off on her. Like,
I
that's
want her to be
super
more
good.
like you.
Yeah. And, she's like, and he kind of admits, like, I'm being so overprotective, but that's just because I want to be in your lives. And, like, now that your sister is getting older and acting more like you, yes, I now have the confidence in her that she can take care of herself, but that also means that, like, she won't need me anymore. And you haven't needed me for a while now. So now I feel like, as a dad, like, I'm just, on the sidelines. So, like, forgive me for being overbearing, but also know that, like, I still love you guys. Um, in which he kind of responds with, like, I did give a check to Sarah Lawrence, so I hope you haven't given up on that because
That's not
I
money
will
I'm
send
gonna
it.
get back, yeah. Which is, like, such a dad thing to do.
Yeah, that's such a dad name. That's cute.
Mhm.
And so basically through that conversation is kind of oh, you admitting that you have essentially, like, robbed Bianca of making her own decisions and choices and, like, understanding the world for herself has kind of made me consider my actions in the situation that I'm in.
Mhm.
And then we get the namesake of the movie, which is her poem. So they're presenting their sonnets in class. Um, and they ask for who's going to go first, to which Kat actually volunteers to go first. And this also happens to be one of the few days that Patrick doesn't skip his class. Convenient. And so everyone's kind of like, oh, surprised because, like, why did Kat volunteer to go first? Like, I thought she was going to think that this assignment was dumb, even though she literally said that she liked the assignment.
I don't
So
know,
she,
like, I kind of picture her, like, as annoying as she is, I think she's also a teacher's pet.
I have no idea.
That's just how I kinda see her.
Sad day.
Mhm. And then right after that, she storms out of the class.
Is
And
it
Patrick
storming
should have
if you're
followed
running?
her.
Yeah, he doesn't follow her, which is like, oof.
First he didn't call, now he doesn't follow her. It's okay, he's been busy. He had shopping to do.
Yeah, he had to go to the music store real quick. I also very much want to know how he found out about detention because he didn't know until, or he didn't know when they went on their date in the boat. Because he's like, oh yeah, how did you get me out of detention?
Oh,
She's like,
no, he
oh, I
did.
dashed
As he's climbing out the
with
window. Yeah.
no, he doesn't see it. She goes, I dazzled him with my wits. He was okay.
Hold on.
And
Let
then
me
so
pull this up. But he as he's climbing out the window, he definitely pauses and, like, looks at her as she flashes the teacher.
does she?
Yeah. Well, and I'm pulling it
Then
up.
why
Give
would
me a
he
second.
ask?
Oh, because he was teasing her.
Oh. Well, she didn't know that he knew.
Oh, no, because she's focused on the teacher. Okay. He's going towards the window. They look left, we go right. Bang, we score, we win. He's crawling out the window. Yeah, as he's crawling out the window, she's looking directly at the teacher, and Patrick, is looking back at her as she flashes him. So he does pause as he's climbing out the window, but she's so focused on the teacher that she can't see him looking at her.
That's funny. So yeah, he doesn't follow her out of the classroom as she runs out sobbing. But you know he feels bad.
He looks like he's on the verge of tears himself.
He really does. It's very heartbreaking. So then yeah, Kat just kind of had a day, so she's like, I'm just gonna go home. She opens up, well, she doesn't open anything. She walks up to her car, which always has the windows down. I'm assuming it's because they don't go up.
I mean, for as old and crappy as her car looks, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised.
Um, so yeah, and there is a bass sitting in the seat, and she's like, "Oh my God, what is this?" I'm just kidding. It's not a bass. It's a guitar. It's her. She's like, "Oh my God," and it's like the same guitar that she was playing in the music store that she didn't know he was in right before he approached her in the bookstore. Um, and so he kind of like, you know, saunters into the scene, and she's like, "Was this you?" And he's like, "Yeah, some idiot dude paid me a bunch of money to take out this girl I really like, and so I had some extra cash." And she's like, "Are you freaking serious? Like, I hate you." Sorry, that wasn't even a good joke. Um, I will be going to sleep after this. So yeah, so they have like the moment, and then she's like, "Wow, that's so sweet," but then she doesn't actually say that, but um, she goes, "You know, you can't buy me a guitar every time you mess up," and he goes, "Yeah, but I figure, you know, there's always the bass, maybe one day a tambourine," which is great. Um, and then they kiss, and they keep kissing,
And it's the end of the
and then
movie.
music.
Mhm.
Which you have great trivia about.
Yeah, so, I actually learned more about the trivia, but, apparently
Ooh.
the director, Gil Junger, asked the studio for $500,000 to get a helicopter to film, this band on top of the high school that they're at, playing the end credit songs.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I guess the studio told them no, but it got lost somewhere in the communication, and the director heard yes. So they went ahead and filmed, got the helicopter. And so
Yes.
they got this band on top of this tiny little like square patch of roof, and they're only being held in with like these thin little wires. I believe the lead in the band said that it was like chicken wire essentially. But she said while they're up there, they said they were told not to mess up because every time the helicopter has to take off, it's $500,000. So they're on top of this roof trying to play their instruments, um, being held in by like nothing and just trying their hardest not to mess up. And they see the helicopter come up, and it does a couple circles around the building and circles around them, and they don't know what's going on. All they know is that they're supposed to play their instruments and make it look real good. And then all of a sudden, whoever was, I believe it was Gil Junger who was in the helicopter. I might have just been the cinematographer, but someone gave the helicopter pilot, just told him like, "Hey, you need to like dive bomb them. Like you need to rush them." And so the lead in the band just kind of like as she's like trying to sing, looks up and sees this helicopter dive bomb her. Has no clue what's going on. Honestly, truly thinks that it's about to crash right into them, but is so worried about the price of what a mess up could mean. Just continues to play her instrument and like sing her heart out.
Oh my god.
And then, afterwards, everything comes, to light. Everyone finally gets real communication going, and it turns out to be one of the greatest scenes or one of the greatest shots in the movie that the
Yeah, you
studio
can
at
watch
that
it's like
point.
as the credits, right?
Yeah, it's as the credits start rolling.
And like literally after you told me the story when I was watching it, I was like, they get pretty freaking close.
Yeah.
Like the shot, it literally looks like you're going to run into them.
Mhm.
Like, oh my god, that's crazy.
And well,
Um,
imagine, like, because the force of the air that must be coming off the helicopter only to be, like, held on to, like, this, like, little tiny square part of, like, because 'cause they've got all their instruments and them on this tiny little square of a roof held in by chicken wire, and you're being blown around by, like, this helicopter wind too as it's just, like, basically
oh
crashing
my
into
god.
you. I am so surprised none of them panicked.
Mm, phenomenal. Professionals.
Mhm. Yep,
Professionals.
truly.
I feel like okay, so like obviously we have to play FMF. Um,
Mhm.
and I mean I feel like the main dudes are probably gonna be the three main dudes of the movie: Joey, Cameron,
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yeah.
But I feel like you already know what I'm gonna say.
I'm curious out of, like, where you would place Patrick and Cameron. I mean, I think we can both agree that, we'd what? Friend zone, what's his face? Joey? Well, no, sorry,
You're already wrong.
no, I'm sorry, I'm actually I'm trying to in the corner of my eye, I'm trying to pull up,
So
the helicopter
I
scene,
would
but
I would screw Joey, friend zone
that's what I
Cameron, and
meant.
marry Pat.
Um,
Because I'm Cat. And
okay.
literally that's what Cat did.
Yeah. No, oh, haha, it
Essentially.
is. Mhm.
So
Um, I meant to say fuck Joey because fuck him one done, get him out of the way, never have to see him again.
he's so
Um,
pretty.
but I was curious about your Heath Ledger and Joseph Gordon-Levitt essentially. Um,
I love Cameron,
yeah.
but as I have established on the podcast before, I like to be equals with my partner.
Yeah.
um, and not that, he wouldn't be, just like in physicality and, like it should be anybody's guess as to who would be done in the situation. We already went over if I'm fight or flight. We already know I'm fight, so.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I do have the scene pulled up real quick, but let me finish.
But I would tell every single one of my friends to like marry Cameron
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
obviously they can't have Patrick. I have Patrick, so
I
the only
so
other guy would be Cameron.
Yeah, I feel like a good general rule of thumb because I have to choose Mary Patrick, friend zone Cameron, pretty much for your reasons. But honestly, depending on the day, it might flip flop. But I do have oh shoot. I just went back. Okay, there we go. I do have the scene pulled up for the roof and the helicopter scene. They so the roof is not flat. It's mostly flat and it looks flat, but it does have a bit of an angle to it. So they had to build this
Oh my
tiny little
god.
stage. And this stage, there's no free room on this
Yeah,
stage.
they're like
It,
crammed on there.
yeah, if it's not them or their instruments, then it's their speakers. Um and it starts off with them just getting real close and circling them and then that's when it dive bombs them, and it's pretty crazy.
Well, all right, we've gotten to the end. So, what would you rate the movie?
Um, 10 out of 10. I have to. I mean, like, with the amount of times that I have rewatched this movie, recommended this movie, um, made other people watch this movie, quoted this movie, like, there's no reason for me not to give it a 10 out of 10. I will admit, it's a pretty cookie cutter movie. Very stereotypical teen high school drama prom movie.
But the writing
Um,
of it is just so good.
the execution is perfect. Um, and it is because it is 1999, it is pretty dated, with some of the costuming and the insults and, some of the things that, the characters say to each other. Uh,
Mhm.
b b but I still think it holds up to this day.
I was gonna give it like a 9.5, but for all the reasons you just said. Like, yeah, it still like holds up. Like it's still better than a lot of stuff that we have today. Some issues with,
Mhm.
verbiage.
Yeah.
And certain things like that. But like, yeah, wonderful writing is just so good. Like it's a
Mhm.
case study, like
It's
character writing, really.
yeah, so this is what I wanna see in more high school movies and TV shows. Like, I don't wanna like, that edgy, like, no one understands me, I know best type of, like, teenager, the Riverdale effect,
Hmm.
right? I want I want this wholesome, like, I don't know what's going on, we're all in this together, oh god, so High School Musical essentially. Like, the wholesome, just, like, because nowadays, everyone just makes high school seem like it was such, like, this dark, depressing period of time that no one likes because we're all going through such an awkward phase in our lives, and
Which,
it
like,
wasn't.
yes, but
Yes.
also,
But also it wasn't just that, like, high school for a lot of people, was
yeah,
a great
some
time,
people
like, they
actually
made
love high
lifelong
school.
friends, yeah. So, and it's just, like, stop making kids, like, fear what high school is. Like, let them enjoy being young and stupid and, making
Yeah, and like
mistakes.
having yeah, the space to make mistakes
Mhm.
because it's probably
With
like,
mostly minimal consequences depending on the mistake.
yeah, and like it's not like Euphoria where it's like these are
Mhm.
completely insane things to be happening. Like I feel like this one's actually a fairly good interpretation of like high school because it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, sure, they probably all look like adults in this high school, but like for the most part, they understand the whole I want to act like I know everything even though I don't. But at the same time, like they write them with the understanding that like they are kids.
Mhm.
they this is the time for them to make mistakes. They're still like exploring who they are and understanding that it doesn't make sense for there to be cliques and like stereotypes like this so solid and
Mhm.
then for everyone to think that they really do fit into those boxes like as as the movie does, like they present everyone with the boxes that they're in and then are like, yes, but no one in these boxes really feels like they belong here. And so
Mhm.
like
They're
that's
all
what
deep, complex characters.
hmm not to knock Euphoria because everyone in Euphoria isn't what you think they are either, but
Mm.
like just in general, there isn't a lot of um there isn't a lot of times when they actually portray that aspect of high school. A lot of times it's the what comes after high school that they're
Mhm.
dealing with instead of being in the moment a lot of the times. So yeah,
Recommendations.
pretty much everything else these women have written.
Yeah, that was mine too. So, as a reminder, that's
She's the
Legally
man.
Blonde, House
Legally blonde.
Bunny, She's the Man. Also just any 90s rom-com, just about, as long as it was written by a woman.
Was Easy A written by a woman?
What?
Easy A?
Let's look it up. One moment.
I mean, I would recommend that one as well. It's very
I
similar
think.
of one of those like adaptation books
Mm-hmm.
to modern day.
No, it was not. It was written by Bert V. Royal, directed by Will Gluck.
But starring Emma Stone.
Yeah,
Oh
and Amanda Bynes.
my god, I forgot she was yeah, she is
I
in
know.
that. Oh my god. That's funny. I mean, I find that movie to be really funny, so
It is. Yeah. I'm not a huge Emma Stone fan, not because she's a bad in any way. It's purely because of her voice. There's something about her voice that just kind of doesn't sit right with me. So it's more
that's
of a, like a
fair.
very, yeah, a very personal thing compared to like anything else.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast. We have some patrons we got to shout out. Thank you to Susan Johnson and Kawana Coleman for being VIPs on our Patreon. If you guys are also interested in being on our Patreon, you can find us. We are Friend of Our Podcast, obviously, on Patreon. So go ahead and you can subscribe there. We do have a YouTube channel where you can listen to all of these episodes as well. But if you would like to watch, we do have them on Patreon, plus other fun and exclusive content. Um, we we do have some fun things coming up for you guys to look out for. One of them is a pretty big deal, and we're very excited about it. And it's all thanks to you guys, everyone that listens and supports us. So thank you so much for that, and we cannot wait to share it with you. And yeah, so thank you so much for listening and for being along with us on this journey, and we will be with you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.